So collect your little eats and trinkets because we're about to start this very important program this evening, and I want to make sure that you get everything right. There's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here all through you, there's a place up there for people like you. So let me say a very good evening to Mr. G. Mr. G, good night.
Pastor Rodney, a very, very good evening to you. But I think you made your first error already.
I
You,
have.
you use this big word there. Granby people not accustomed to those kind of big things, you know.
Don't worry about that, man. You know, people like you from Granby, you know how big that is. And you know exactly who I was talking about. And that happened to be you, sir.
Well,
A very good night. Just accept it and let's get on with it. That's not an error. That was deliberate. That was calculated.
I'm going to get on with it, but I will put it in the right context when I come to talk about the real man who's the indomitable man tonight. I will put everything in perspective for you. And you know what they say, Pastor Rodney, behind every indomitable man, there is
There's a
an
great woman.
thank you very much. So, Pastor Rodney, good evening to you, and a very, very pleasant good evening, and welcome to our esteemed Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston, my schoolmate, in whom I am certainly well pleased. A very, very warm good evening to your distinguished wife, Vicky, and your dear son, Herbert, who are in the studio with you. A special good evening to all our worldwide Q family listeners, and to our kudos to our committee members who are all with us tonight in the various parts of the United States and Canada and Dominica. It is indeed a global event tonight because I have seen messages from listeners and from Mr. Sukie Winston's fans as far out as China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Switzerland, Sweden, all over the place, from Europe, Africa, Canada, the United States. Some closer to home from the French territories of Guadeloupe and Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Martin, Antigua, just to name a few of them. So everyone in the Q family is tuned in to Q95 tonight, and for good reason. We anticipate a big evening with Q95 honoring a big man who's also a big fan of the big shows on the big station tonight. So I'm absolutely delighted, and indeed I feel honored and privileged to say a very, very special good evening to the distinguished members of our Q95 Heroes Committee, Ms. Janice Williams Russell in Toronto, CSM Ralph Alcindor in Atlanta, Georgia, Miss Corinne Francis, who's in San Francisco. She's not able to join us quite yet. I think she got her times mixed up. She's a couple of hours difference from us. She very likely join us a little bit later as we go along. So she's in San Francisco. Dr. Simone Matthews in Atlanta, Georgia. Former UN Ambassador Crispin Grego has not joined us yet. He's in New York. Expect to hear from him shortly. Dr. Dion George also in his Atlanta. And in Dominica, we have Mr. Leroy Waddix Charles, and of course yourself, Pastor Randy Rodney in Dominica. So we ask you, all of our listeners, to join our live stream on Facebook and on YouTube at Q95 FM Radio and on several other streaming platforms. So my fellow Dominicans, our cherished or highly favored extended Q family listeners and friends of Dominica at home and abroad, as chairman of the Q95 Kudos to our Heroes Committee, and on behalf of our entire committee, I am absolutely delighted and honored to present Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston to Dominica, to the region, and to the world as our 9th Dominican national hero. He truly deserves that accolade. Mr. Winston, just to tell you a little bit about him, a very humble man. He was born in 1947 in Roseau, grew up in Newtown. His father, Mr. Dale Winston, was born in Castle Bruce and raised in Newtown as well. His mother, Flory, Anastasia George, also known as Ma Flora, with whom he enjoyed a very, very close, warm relationship. I'm sure he'll tell us about that a little later on himself. It's something which is very dear to his heart. She was from River Street in Roseau, and his dear wife, his very, very dear wife of over 45 years, Mrs. Victoria Janet Winston Nee Charles, and she's from the community of Marigot. It is so good to have Vicky with us here tonight. We shout out Sukie's daughter, Sandra Winston Grano, who now resides in the state of Florida in the United States, and his son, Hubert Jefferson Winston, who's in Dominica, is in studio with us tonight. Happy to have him. His cherished grandchildren include Savita Grano, Holly Winston, and Aubrey Lawrence. So Sukie Winston, he got his primary education at the Wesley High School preschool in Roseau, then the Roseau Boys School. And then this very humble man received his secondary education at my alma mater, the Dominica Grammar School, and he graduated with me sometime in 1967. I don't want to tell you our age. He doesn't like this age thing. This is a man who doesn't like to talk about his age business there. He'll tell you why a little later on. But in addition to his valuable transformational lifelong work and accomplishments, Mr. Winston always brings out the best in others to work hard, to be true to their profession, to reach out to excellence and be dedicated to being the best, the very best that they can be in whatever they do. Kudos indeed tonight to Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston and his family. He's a true Dominican hero for installing and instilling a positive mental attitude that elevated the content of the social and cultural dialogue on business matters for over 45 years, for being a great Dominican who demonstrates that each one of us can do extraordinary things in whatever we set our minds to do. We invite you, our cherished Q95 listeners at home and abroad, in the region and worldwide, to join us in appreciating, in embracing, in celebrating, in recognizing, awarding, and extending kudos to our ninth Dominican national hero, Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. Rest assured that Mr. Winston remains highly respected, admired, and cherished by all Dominicans at home and abroad, and by all of us here at home in our nature island gem of the Caribbean. And we honor him tonight for his exemplary performance in transcending self-interest, for going well over and beyond the call of duty and above and beyond normal demands and expectations, for commanding respect in society, for being a true pioneer in his work and in his occupation, for his innovation, his achievements, his tenacity in the face of all the challenges that he has obviously encountered and endured in his lifetime, for his impactful leadership excellence, for his community involvement, his collaborations and partnerships, for his dedicated commitment to people's well-being and social development. For these and for many more reasons that are just too many to mention, too numerous to mention here tonight, the Q95 Kudos to Our Heroes Committee recognizes, we appreciate, we embrace, and we award Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston as a champion, and we bestow upon him the very well-deserved and earned esteemed title of a true Dominican national hero. So kudos to our ninth Dominican hero, Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston, his wonderful dear wife Vicky, his children and grandchildren, who have stood steadfastly beside him through thick and thin. And it will always be the honor and delight of every member of our Kudos to Our Heroes Committee, all of us Dominicans at home and abroad, and all of us in the Q family, to say to everyone everywhere, we know, we love, we respect Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. May the good Lord bless you, Mr. Winston, your great wife Vicky, your wonderful children and grandchildren, and may God also bless all of the other true Dominican national heroes whose works positively impact the lives of Dominicans and others everywhere, every day. So, on behalf of our Kudos to Our Heroes Committee, and on behalf of every Dominican at home and abroad, thank you, Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. And finally, I wish to say that Godspeed. We look forward to having you to inspire us for many, many years to come. Thank you, and may God bless your entire family richly. And we look forward to spending next couple hours with you, a delightful conversation about you to let the world who you know who you truly are. Thank you so much, Mr. Winston, and I now I yield over back to Pastor Randy Rodney.
Thank you very much, Mr. G, for this citation here in terms of honoring Mr. Winston. Quite frankly, I can't believe that there is one Dominican who don't know that name and who's not acquainted with that Sukie Winston. And so I am sure that we would have Mr. G, the right hand, if you like, of almost every Dominican supporting the decision of the committee in terms of honoring Mr. Winston.
Well, certainly, Pastor Rodney. In fact, starting from the committee, I mean, we got many, requests from many people asking us to honor and recognize Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. And every single member of our committee immediately, automatically, unanimously said, oh, yes, we have to do it. We would have done it sooner, but then, we can only do so many a year. And then we try to give preference to certain people because, for example, we had one situation where we wanted to honor first Prime Minister Patrick John, but unfortunately, we had to do it posthumously because he died first. So we wanted to make sure that we did certain things. And we had told ourselves that we were going to do one man and then one woman. But as it turns out, we have not been able to honor that pledge, but we're going to try to do that. And maybe Mr. Sukie Winston is a person who's going to inspire us because he's a guy who believes in gender balance. He will tell us later. So it inspires us to take the road, to get off the old track and get back on the right track.
All right, but let me just have them greet the people tonight, both Mr. Winston and Mrs. They are here with us this evening. Mr. Winston, a very good night to you, sir.
Good night, Pastor Rodney. Good night to the Dominican public. Good night to the world people at large. And I hope that I keep my fingers crossed that my friends in Russia would be listening. And that in itself will bring some peace and tranquility to those that are affected by the ambitious personality of Putin in the area that he officiates, because it looks like a one-man decision. Whatever he may want to portray as everything else has to do with his security, as to the way forward, and possibly I wouldn't want to believe that in the back part of his mind that he would be and look to be a threat to the world peace. So be as it may, to the people of Russia and to the people that are being victimized, I keep my fingers crossed for the good Lord to propel and to help others, and let there be peace and tranquility to everybody. Thank you very much.
Good. Mrs. Winston, a very good night to you. You mean Mr. Winston saying every day? Well, let's just tell us good night. I know Mr. Winston have a lot to say. Mr. G, I think we have to speak to the president of the US, because I am now just getting the feeling that we need to send Mr. Winston as a special envoy to ensure that some conversation be had out there in Russia and Ukraine, and I think we have a capable hand right there. So I wanted to think about that so we can speak to President Biden in that regard. Uh,
We'll take care of that.
Good, good. Wadix is here with me in the studio. Good evening, Wadix.
Good evening to you, Pastor Rodney. Good evening to the members of the Kudos to Q or Heroes Committee and the esteemed, legendary Herbert, Sukie Winston, and his beautiful wife. I really want to congratulate you today for this particular honor. It is not very often that we elevate mankind in this part of our rock. It's not very often that we raise the level of our lives. And by this particular honoring this evening, we hope that we can set a new platform, a new page, where we can, by your story this evening, we can aspire to really encourage, especially the people who may be feeling hopeless at this point in time, the people who may be despondent, the people who may be discouraged, the people who have gone through the pandemic and are wondering how are they going to really survive the future. We hope that your story this evening will inspire them. Because I remembered as a primary school student at the Goodwill School, where Randy, not this Randy, but Randy Peters have his place now. He used to have a shop there. And that is where we would get something called the PKC, our recess. And with this PKC, I'm not sure how many people would know what is the PKC. You know what's the PKC, Brother Randy?
Yes, I do.
If the PKC, you had an opportunity to share your recess. You know, the PKC was something like this. So you could
you could break a piece.
You could break a piece out
right,
of it.
Right.
And put your oil, put your cooking butter in it and have your recess. And that's where you could buy your toffee. That's the first place I ate toffee. But the life of Mr. Winston is a real powerful one which has really gone deep, soul searching, a human being with exemplary behavior in terms of where he came from. And when his peers chose other aspects in life to move on, he decided to remain a humble being and continue the legacy of his family baking bread. And he will give the story, and several others will give the story of this legendary figure. I am really honored to be part of this committee because it gives a level of documentation so that our young people can actually learn of the various aspects of our survival after emancipation. There are several, hundreds of great Dominicans who have done several positive work for us. And the Kudos Committee found it fit to honor these particular people, to document their legacies, to document their life, and hopefully one of those days, who knows, who may emulate under the Sukie Herbert Winston. The level of camaraderie, the jovialness of this man, this 365-day work, some may say workaholic, but for this man, when I interviewed him and he told me his joy is to watch football, everything else is work. How many of us see this as a way of survival, as a way of reaching the ultimate goal, as a way of triumphing over the pestilence of darkness, the tribulations, the trials, especially in a difficult place like Dominica? And this man persevered and continued to be a history lesson for us. And I really want to congratulate you. And it was a no-brainer when your name came up to be honored. And that's my little piece to really bring and celebrate these 2 hours with you, Mr. Winston. It's a celebration of your victory. It's a celebration of your life. And we want it to be not a solemn or a sad moment, but a joyful moment. And we hope that we can really celebrate with your with your achievements today, and may God bless you, sir, and your beautiful wife. They always said a successful man always is accompanied by a rock. And Vicky, we want to thank you for really holding and staying so close to this gentleman and being part of his history and being part of his legacy. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Q Committee, kudos to Q Committee. Once again, congratulations, my brother, and may the Father bless you, guide, and protect you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wadix. We'll be interchanging with the committee members shortly, Mr. G. But I want to go to air a couple of voices that, especially those that I heard, Mr. Winston made mention of particularly. And then when we have done a few of them, I will, come back to the members of the committee who will share some thoughts, and we will intersperse that tonight and really have a good time in doing that. So I did not know that he had a different name, though. But everybody knows this one as Bobby Frederick. So let's listen to Bobby, and then we'll pay a listen to Colin Bully right after that. So the next voice you're going to hear is that of Bobby Frederick, followed by Colin Bully.
What can one say about Sukie that has not been said already? Still, it's always good to see someone receive their honors while they are alive and among us. And if there's any one person who deserves recognition for his contribution to progress in Dominica, it's my friend Sukie. Sukie and I have been friends from boyhood. And given our ages, I would say we have over 100 years invested in that friendship. In fact, maybe brother would be the appropriate word to describe how we relate to each other. There are a number of memorable moments that we've shared together, and it would require more than a songbite to recall them. But I will venture to say that if one had the opportunity to be advised and mentored by Sukie, he or she will be a much stronger individual, especially in navigating the present political and economic landscape. So once again, I say honors to my friend, and I'm very happy for you, my brother. Thank you.
Just for the information of the listening public, that Bobby Frederick, according to Sukie, is the person who introduced him to his first job, insurance?
Yes.
His first job, insurance. Sukie might tell us about that again a little later tonight. Colin Bully.
I know Mr. Winston. I got to know Mr. Winston, I think, from his early days at school. He came into the grammar school after I just left, but already he was being known and in the Newtown area. And I saw him at that school. He, from that point, was, to my mind, becoming a trailblazer already. He was, to my mind, again, defying the school system. The secondary school system was really developed to educate young Dominicans to be good citizens and to be public servants. But there was Mr. Sukie, as he got to be known later on, seeing the opportunity and starting to see what he could change on this. And he brought in the dimension that the school missed in terms of entrepreneurship. I don't like my master. I don't like the yeah. So I saw him now as a person going into school, trying to develop public servants, and there he was as an entrepreneur already, in his first business operations or part operations in a bakery. So he used school for contacts, to broaden its knowledge, to position him, to enter into the world of business. So he was always an entrepreneur, one on his own, one seeking to find opportunities. And it's in that sense I got to understand him and talk with him a little more regularly as he developed his enterprises. It's interesting as to how he went about it. how he diversified his portfolios of businesses. Interesting in terms of how he researched it, talked to people, his relationships with people on the ground. He's a very open person. He can be private as well, but very open. And he's quick at identifying opportunities. And so you saw Sukie moving off from bakery into the mercantile sector, into business and supermarkets, into transportation and taxis. Now, in his most recent ventures, he has been looking at tourism, agritourism in terms of yachting, and he's looking at housing in terms of apartments, and he's looking at energy in terms of gas and liquid petroleum. Yeah, you would say that. And there he is. But what is the hallmark? His hallmark has always been to me that when he gets into business, he's a hands-on person. He learns that business first by he doing it, so that he develops the knowledge of his business intimately, and that it allows him to manage it. Some might say micromanage, but he manages it to his own satisfaction. His hallmarks have always been reliability, I believe, and service. He's a stickler for service. And I think these hallmarks have made him what he is now. So he is, to my mind, a champion of the new private sector, a champion of the post-independence private sector. As the economy grew, opportunities grew, and so did Sukie. Even went into agriculture and he was doing livestock. And so he's that kind of personality. To my mind, he's one of the models that we should look at, a model of best practice in the country in terms of how he invests, the scope and the depth of his investments, the opportunities he sees. And what's interesting as well, which a lot of our people miss, that they don't accept that every project has a life, every product has a life. And Sukie is not tying himself to any one project for eternity, in a sense. He's moving from one to the next. As he sees an opportunity, he closes down one and builds the next one. A unique character, because our people tend to believe that they have an idea of their own and nobody else can do it. So he can spot it. He can see when the competition is coming in, where he should relax, where he should accelerate. And these are the hallmarks, to my mind, of leaders, trailblazers, who Sukie really represents that kind of businessman. An essential part of our economy is to have young entrepreneurs beginning like Sukie, learning from him and looking at his best practices.
And I know you would like to congratulate him on being given the opportunity to be a Q hero, because Q have gone into what QFM has done is to go into the process of identifying people who have made a tremendous contribution to Dominica on various sectors. And Mr. Herbert Winton is one of those. So I would like, I'm sure you would like to congratulate him.
Oh, sure. I believe, again, here is he sort of breaking the ice again. Very often our icons are persons who are well established. They are either in business or they're in the creative arts and things of that sort. When we talk of businessmen, we talk of big businessmen. We're talking now of a small man, but a big business. And he stands out. He has been involved in so many facets of our life, business life. He has supported the arts. I know he likes carnival and things of that sort. And there he is. He delved, I believe, at some stage in some politics in the early post-independence period. So he has a little bit of everything in him. And our country needs to recognize persons like him, those who have survived, those who know how to address adversity, those who know when to get into the fight and when to get out of the fight, and those who have our country first in their minds. Sukie is one of those. Country first, his people first. and his poor people are his champions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Colin Bully, and may God continue to richly bless you and stay safe, sir.
Thank you very much. And it's a real good. I'm very happy that you have given me this opportunity. There's much more I could say, and I'll be willing to say if you so desire.
No problem. Thank you very much.
And that was Colin Bully on Herbert Sukie Winston. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, if you wonder what's happening, we are honoring our 9th hero, and that is Herbert Sukie Winston. I'm going to take 2 other people from the Kudos Committee. Janice, prepare yourself, as well as Dr. Simon Matthew. We're going to go right to you momentarily.
To fix more than you break. If you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you.
Janice, a very good evening to you.
A very good evening to you, Pastor Randy Rodney, and to the committee members, and also to the distinguished Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. I want to say good evening to your wife as well, and all I can say is King Waddix said it best. I want to congratulate you, a distinguished human being who've served many, many, many in your community. And I know what I'm talking about. So I want to say it is one of the proudest moments for me to be sitting here and seeing with my own eyes that you are being honored today. So I say, congratulations. It couldn't have happened to a nicer, better human being. Congratulations to your family. Congratulations to also Meme.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice. Dr. Matthew, let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you, Pastor Rodney, and good evening to our national hero, Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston, and his beautiful wife. Congratulations, Mr. Winston, very well deserved. Also, good evening to our Q95 listeners, as well as our Facebook Live audience. I've been sharing the Facebook Live all over Facebook because we want to hear from you. We want to hear your accolades as we recognize our 9th Dominican hero. And I want to say good evening as well to the committee members. Our kudos to our Heroes Committee member. And it is an honor to be a part of this committee that recognizes the important work that gives flowers to our deserving Dominicans while they're still around. And also very important because many of our individuals, such as Mr. Sukie Winston, they are us, right? They come from where we come from. They come from humble beginnings. They come from disadvantaged backgrounds the same way we did, but yet they've created a path filled with tenacity, a path filled with what seemed at the time as insurmountable challenges in a small nation as Dominica. But they had the vision, they had the tenacity, and they had the mission in mind. And so, Mr. Winston, we want to thank you for remaining steadfast, even during those very dark hours, which I can only imagine that you experienced along the way, but you remain steadfast. And so your story provides an opportunity for the next generations after you to recognize themselves in you and to know that there is hope for a better future. There is hope if you remain steadfast as well. And there is hope if you do not be discouraged, no matter what the obstacle. There is hope if we do not get stuck on no, because there are so many in our society who are quick to close the door, who are quick to say no to us. Yet we keep searching for that open window. we keep searching for that open door, and most importantly, we connect with the right people. So many times on this journey of life, Oprah said it best: once you start excelling, many in your circle will no longer recognize you. And rather than attempting to lift you up, they will attempt to keep you in your place. Because who do you think you are, Mr. Sukie Winston? Who do you think you are to want to excel? But yet we push them aside and we connect with the right people, because nobody does this alone, right? Nobody does this alone. We liaise with the right people, we remain steadfast, and we continue on this journey to success. So once again, I want to say congratulations to you and your family. Congratulations to the Kudos to Our Heroes Committee for making an excellent choice with Mr. Herbert Sukie Winton. And I'm looking forward to this celebration, because Waddick said it best. This is a celebration. This is a celebration of a journey. This is a celebration of your success. And today, sir, we honor you. So it is a pleasure being here, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this conversation. Thank you.
I thank you ever so much for the utterances and the total presentation that has been well orchestrated. I need to say that at this particular moment, I humble myself. I thank each and every one for the indulgence of the whole exercise and what it has brought about, and the encouragement that still stands, because I term myself as being very young in the light of energy. So to what it is, I shall continue with the good words and the good blessings of the Most High. I thank everyone. Thank you very much.
We will get again to that area, Mr. Winston, and as a member of the committee, I love to, let my colleagues, share their views first. But I want to commend Mr. G on the Sukie that I've gotten to know. I find out that grammar school students have something unique about them. And I do not want anybody to get upset with me tonight on the program, but somehow grammar school students have something unique about them. They have a mind of their own that is thinking, and they're able to articulate very, very well. So, having sat in the same class or at the same time with Mr. G, Mr. Winston, I suspect whatever your teachers did was very, very good. And there are a few of them who are speaking the same. My interaction with you over the last number of years has been always one of enlightening. I really love the way that, and Colin said it very well, that you undertake for your business. And I believe that you provide a leadership that many businesses require in terms of knowing what you're doing and doing it first, and having people come after you. But I have found that your knowledge of geopolitics and the economics of living, let me put it that way, is something that we need to tap into a little bit more. And I'm glad to hear you say that you're young. So I have a way of challenging Mr. G, and I'm hoping that Mr. G can now initiate tapping into that wealth, so that the many of us who are coming behind have a blueprint, have somebody to follow. And I'm really hoping that we can do that, because I have found, quite frankly, personally, that you have a wealth of knowledge that many people need to tap into. Mr. G, are you taking me on this?
I'm taking you on, Pastor Rodney. But first of all, I want to go back. Let's go back a little bit there. Remember that I was in the grammar school with this gentleman called Herbert Sukie Winston. Somewhere along the line, I heard somebody say that he was a famous footballer. But I mean, if you go back there, Herbert couldn't catch me up on the field,
Okay.
He couldn't catch me. He'll tell you about it. I mean, I'm sure he'll agree. He's an honest man. He's a man of integrity. He's not going to tell you something wrong. He'll tell you when Gregoire had that ball, he couldn't catch up with you. And I know he tried. I don't think he was in Skinner House. I was in Skinner House. I don't know. Which house were you in, Sukie?
Benedict Joseph.
You were in
BJ.
You see, you were in the big BJ house. But I mean, when it comes to soccer, I mean, Vicky will tell you. She knew because, I mean, I'm sure she was around. She saw football happening in grammar school and so on. So, Sukie, maybe you can tell Pastor Rodney, because he doesn't seem to know about your prowess on the soccer field.
I did exceptionally well until I got injured by a very prominent, what in nowadays very prominent footballer named Mr. Alin and Kuru. So yeah, so we were more or less facing the Botanical Gardens goal post, and I beat him out, and I thought it was basically a matter of art that was executed, not knowing that he was embarrassed by the spectators who applauded me to what actually took place. And I tried it again, and I was left to mourn the loss of a few ounces of good flesh. So by so doing, I resorted to be a spectator. And up to this present moment, I sponsor the athletes, the footballers of my community in the past, more prominently. But at this particular moment, I am a diehard of Manchester United and hoping to see myself physically in London very soon to view one of the matches. Thank you.
But you know, Pastor Ronnie, well, thanks for giving us a little break there to do that. I mean, Joey Carew, I think Sukie forgot Joey Carew like to slide. And then
Definitely.
you can't beat out Joey Carew and get away with that. He will get back to you and slide, and you'll feel the consequence. But Pastor Ronnie, just to take 1 minute to just answer your question. In terms of the mindset of the entrepreneur, Herbert Sukie Winston, I mean, some people are born with it, you know. This man started doing this thing from the time he was 5 years old. Some people are born with the spirit of entrepreneurship, and you cannot take that away from them. You cannot keep them down no matter what you do. You cannot hold them back. They will fall, but they will pick themselves up and rise again. And if you look at the number of investments, diversified portfolio of investments that he himself engaged in, you'll see the way the man's mind works. This is a man, unfortunately, I remember when Sukie went up for politics. In a way, I didn't like it because I knew if we went into politics, we would lose this entrepreneur. And look at the difference he has made in the private sector. So I'm very glad that he did not go into politics. So, I mean, today, I think we have a phenomenal businessman. I will tell you this. Here's what happened tonight. Just to give you a quick example of what happened. I got a call from Ferdinand Frampton this evening. And she said to me, Mr. G, I didn't know you were doing this. If you had told me, I would have asked you after the show just to tell Mr. Winston to come across and let's do it in the spotlight with him one time. But she told me, well, because we didn't arrange it, so you can take as much time as you want tonight. So we have all the time that we need on Ferdinand Frampton's show tonight. So don't be afraid if we go a little overboard. But I think a little later on in the show, I think we can ask Dr. Simone Pastor Rodney to maybe identify some of the people who are with us on Facebook. We have a lot of people who are following us on Facebook, Mr. Winston. There's people who are looking at this on YouTube and on Facebook, on different platforms, different Facebook accounts. So we're not alone. There's people all over the world. Pastor Rodney, I just thought I would say those things so that every Dominican, I know Alex is listening in Switzerland and she's complimenting us for what is happening there. She's a big fan of Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. Pastor Rodney, let me go back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. G. We have, like I said, a number of voice clips that we have to get through tonight. And we will, intersperse that with conversations as we go along. And so we're going to take another 3 of them. And following these three, I will take two more members of the Kudos Committee. So I see Ambassador Crispin Gregoire there. We'll take him, and probably CSM Alcender. So we'll do that in a minute. But let's go to listen to Eden Bowers, Colin Baptist, and Athimate.
My name is Eden Bowers, and I would like to say a few words about Sukie, a man I'm proud to know and call my friend. Herbert, Herbie, Sukie Winston. I have known and admired Sukie all my life. Sukie has always been respectful to his parents, both biological and adoptive. Ever faithful and proud of his community, Newtown. We, especially in Newtown and the whole of Dominica, already know of his remarkable and unsurpassed entrepreneurial achievements as a self-made businessman. But what about the man himself? Sukie, a man unflinching in his belief in the power of the words, I can. A man following his vision with passion and courage. Sukie is a man of character, self-confidence, discipline, all these indispensable attributes in one's pursuit of excellence. A man clothed with deep-seated spiritual beliefs. That has been his driving force. That has produced a cohesive and loving family, supported by an ever-faithful wife and partner, affectionately known by all as Vicky. A man, a family man, par excellence, with uncompromising love and admiration for his family. Mr. Winston has been able to nurture a son, Herbert, whose intellectual and, yes, entrepreneurial standards and skills far surpass many in the land. Groomed by his example, for he has ushered the rest of his family, that is Sukie's family, and even his in-laws into the higher realm of local business. And his granddaughter, the apple of his eye, already showing signs of genius, what I would call the Sukie genealogical heritage, the Sukie genes. To my mind, that is a hero, measured not necessarily by popular acclaim, but by an exhibition of quiet confidence and a deep faith in God. A friend once told me, just this morning, that a beautiful life doesn't just happen. It is built daily by prayers, humility, sacrifice, and love. Sukie, Herbie, Herbert, Winston, I salute you, sir. You are most worthy of this award and acclamation. Sincere congratulations. I know you're not finished and won't be until the call comes. Good luck, my friend. Thank you.
Well, it's indeed a pleasure, and consider myself to be very fortunate to be in a position to speak about a man who I refer to as the entrepreneurial maestro of the OECS. He's a family member, first cousin. We share the same grandmother. His mom was my aunt, and my father was his uncle. Sukie has inspired me and many a generation. I consider him to be a huge pillar in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The life that he has lived within the business community is an example which we must all follow. I believe that Sukie's model of development is quite an inspiration to many. And I believe that the young entrepreneurs must take a lift from the genius of Sukie to use that as a particular stratagem to forge their destiny as far as it pertains to that very creative, unique feature. The Sukie model of development must be followed, not only within the context of the Harlem Newton community, but nationally and beyond. His work ethic is the engine which needs to spur us on to what I refer to as meaningful development within the realm of a community that came from the very appendage of slavery. We are a maroon community. And as a result, it has been felt, erroneously, of course, that African people does not have what it takes to build. Sukie is the very factor which would falsify that particular myth, because he is an engine, the very epitome of what is required in the people. He is part of us. And if he can do it, his model, if followed, would serve as an impetus for future generation to have that level of belief in themselves. Because if you do not believe in yourself, then you lack the energy, you lack the vitality to move forward. So Sukie's model is a model that can actually propel us as a people. I believe that he has worked very hard over several decades. It's not only within the context of being the bread tycoon of Dominica. You look at his work within the touristic sector. Sukie operated within the livestock realm. Sukie is into the business, the gas. Sukie also invested a substantial portion of his capital in the area of sports within the context of the Newton community. We might have heard about JD Rocks, but before there was JD Rocks, there was Seaworld's Black Rocks, there was Sukie's Rocks, there was Sukie's Victoria Street. There was also the Harlem Institute of Martial Arts and Self-Defense, which Sukie formed. There was the Sukie's Disco, there was the Sukie's movie theater. And many times people tend to, fail to recognize, what that man has done. Sukie is not just within the sphere of baking. His approach to development is multifaceted, and it's a very, very, very unique aspect of Sukie. That is part of his legacy. He has a no-nonsense, unhypocritical approach to business. You have to do it the way that it needs to be done. He believes in time management. He believes in discipline. He believes in value for money. He is a consummate professional. That is why many years ago, there were persons who lectured at the University of the West Indies who speak about the Sukie's model of development. There are many students who have come to me and they have written school-based assessments for CXE based on Sukie's model of development. So this is not, an ordinary Dominican that's there. He's extraordinary. And that is why a couple decades ago, the state saw it fit to, honor him. But it has to go beyond that. I believe, as I had discussions with Mr. Winston a couple days ago, I told him that at some stage you have to sit down and write your book. These things have to be documented, and I have to commend my other legend, Warix, for taking that opportunity to chronicle the aspect, the life of, this phenomenal Dominican figure.
I am humbled, pleased, and honored to have been invited by Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston to share a few thoughts on himself and his life and his work in this important process involving his being named and being provided with some honor. Mr. Winston never did anything in his life for honor. That's the first thing. He always worked and led and participated with honor. And it is unmistakable when you go past his business in Newtown to look up and you see that bicycle and the motto from a humble beginning strikes you as being of some significance because it is so unusual. And the man himself is unusual. He does come from a humble beginning, and in every enterprise that he's engaged himself over his lifetime, school and sports and business, family, he has done it to the very best of his ability, which has always been more than enough. Mr. Winston is someone who encapsulates some of the things, the characteristics, the values and the qualities that we so badly need in Dominica and the world today. It only takes a brief conversation with him to understand the depth, the enormous spread and breadth of his knowledge of world events, regional events, and local events. I think Herbert Sukie Winston represents one of the most important elements critical to community life, family life, and national life, however. And he would agree, I believe, when I say that that element is you spend your life doing what you do well, doing it to the best of your ability, doing it for the right reasons, and most important, because it is important that every generation leave a legacy for those who come behind. And it is without a doubt that Herbert Sukie Winston, by his life, his work, and his involvement and engagement in the life of Dominica, has left a legacy that will outlast the next couple generations and will forever remain as a reference point for those who wish to follow in his footsteps and those who wish to chart the future for Dominica. Mr. Winston, Sukie, all the very best to you as you continue your life's journey and as you deepen and widen the legacy of productivity, the legacy of honest work, the legacy of support and partnership, and the legacy of family and community. Congratulations, my brother.
You don't want to wait, stand in line and couple ring. Like desperados, they chatting their own say. They are villas, London every dollar, cause tomorrow might just be too late. We don't want to work hard like Sukie, 2 months too long to earn a salary. They want money, 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 money. Whether it's still they still or win the lottery. They want it now. They want it now. They don't want to work for it. They want it now. They want it now. You are prisoner at your home, afraid outside to home. Cause internet children, like instant coffee, want it now. They want it now.
So you're wondering why I'm playing this song? They don't want to work like Sukie. I'm sure we'll get back to that song again, but we have Ambassador Crispin Gregoire with us, a member of the Kudos for Q committee, as well as CSM Alcindor. And I'm going to let them to share their comments now at 6 minutes past 7 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we are honoring Herbert Sukie Winton. I'm going to ask him in a while, where did that Sukie come from? And he will have to tell us this evening. But we will hear from him in a while. So Ambassador Crispin, a very good night to you, and following you, CSM Alcindor. Ambassador, you're muted still. Will you unmute your mic?
Okay. Yeah, good evening, Pastor Randy. Can you hear me now?
Good evening, loud and clear.
Okay. Good evening to the committee members, Kudos Committee, and good evening to the listeners of Q95 at home and abroad. Indeed, it's an honor to honor a giant. I don't know. Other people have said many things already, and the night is early. But first of all, I want to mention Mrs. Winston, Vicky, because without Vicky, he wouldn't be the giant that he is. And tonight, we are honoring Mr. Herbert Winston, aka Sukie. As a member of the Kudos Committee, I want to say to the listening public that very early, he's been on our list of honorees. Of course, there were other honorees that were ahead of him, but I know that in 2022, he would get to the top of the list. And here we are in the first quarter of 2022, and he's the first person that we're honoring for this year. Right, Sheridan? I guess yeah.
Yeah, that's yep.
I want to say, first of all, that he's an esteemed and distinguished Dominican. I have known the name before I knew Herbert Winston. I knew the name Sukie as early as 1967. And I think he was still riding that bike. That is the symbol of his business. And of course, I became, as a student at SMA, not grammar school, I was patronizing his business from that early. And little did I know that as I got to be an adult, I would cross paths with him and he would become a mentor. As many people know, maybe most people know my name associated with politics and maybe diplomacy as well. Sukie has been an early mentor to me. Somebody that I would look up to and listen. He has a breadth of knowledge that is beyond the realm of business. When you think of international politics, the man is well read. The man he can argue with me and I will listen. And he has a knack for understanding our local politics. So when I think of the people who've influenced me in terms of my understanding of the Dominican context of politics and also world issues, he's clearly one of those people that influenced me. And more so in the last 30 years, he picks my brain, and he's not afraid to call me up and say, Crispin, what do you think about this and what? And I became a friend, and he became my friend to the extent that his wife is also a friend. So that's how close I have gotten to him over the years. And for these two individuals, I have great respect for them. Their tenacity in business. I mean, it's not an easy terrain, and I'm sure he'll tell you that, to navigate to be a successful business person in Dominica. But he's not just a businessman, he's a community man. He's made Newtown his base from which he has reached out. And he has supported Newtown over the years. I mean, I can think back to the Harlem concerts that Loftus Emmanuel organized. I'm sure Sukie had a hand in that, and he has had a hand in many other things. I think that he's been a great example in the business sector for young entrepreneurs to emulate. I think he has many stories to tell. He has many lessons to guide you on. I really think that he should be a teacher at the state college, just teaching business, teaching how do you make a business succeed in the Dominican context. It's not an easy road to travel. He has, one of the things about him is that, you know, there are many people who are afraid of stating their mind about politics. Sukie has supported ruling parties and opposition as well. He's not afraid to take a political position. He's cautious as far as how that can affect his business, but he has demonstrated that sometimes you have to be resolute about your position as far as social development, as far as political development. There are a few things that I could say a lot about him tonight, but I'm going to manage the time that has been allotted to me. I can say a few things about him. One, he has demonstrated great tenacity in business. That's one. He understands how to confront adversity, and that you need in the Dominican context. And he has a very good knack for understanding, and that's both him and his wife, the business cycle and when to diversify, which he has done at various times in his business career. And this is a man who has been in business for 50 plus years. So there's a lot to learn from him. And it's really a great honor tonight that the committee has designated him one of the Dominican heroes that we needed to recognize. And his legacy is already out there, will continue. And for as long as he remains active in his business career, I want to thank him for all he's done for the communities, not just the community of Newtown, but many communities, Grand Bay, just name it. I've been associated with him as a Grand Bay person. And Sukie, for all you've done for us in Dominica, you're a nationalist businessman. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Crispin Gregoire. CSM Alcenda, are you there now?
Pastor Rodney, I passed a message to you that CSM Alcendo had to step out for a moment.
Okay.
But Dr. Dion George is with us, and so is Corinne Francis.
So let's take Dr. Dion George then.
Okay, good evening to everyone, the host. I want to invite the Holy Spirit. But before I even start, I want to say that I won't be too presumptuous to say that I know everything about Sukie. What I would say is it's an honor to be part of the committee. And I say that very humbly, but there were so many names that came up talking about sports figures and educators and farmers, and almost Mr. Winston, by almost unanimous, your name was chosen. And so what I did is I did my research, and of course I remember you very well, even from a little bit younger. I did my research, and of course I remember Sukie Bread. I remember very well the gas station. But more so, I remember the type of person people always said that you were a businessman, that you were always part of wanting to be a nationalist for Dominica. And so the 3 minutes that I have, I said I would like to use it in most utility. And so I decided to want to recite a poem for you, if that's fine. And then I will express my sentiments towards how much I appreciate you and how much I thank you for what you have done for Dominica, sir. Good.
Right ahead.
Yes, the first poem I would like to share, it's a poem that's called The Test of a Man. And I will try to recite it without reading it. And then the next one, I think I may have to read it, but they're very short. And so it says, the test of a man is the fight that he makes, the grit that he daily shows, the way he stand upon his feet and take life numerous bump and blows. A coward can smile while noting his progress bar, but it takes a man to stand and cheer while the other fellows start. It isn't the victory after all, but the fight that a brother makes. A man, when driven against the wall, still stand tall and take the blows of fate. With his head held high, bleeding, bruised, and pale, is the man who will win because he's not afraid to fail. And so, after I saw what happened in Dominica concerning you, as I don't have to talk about your contribution to business, I don't have to talk about your bread successful company, I don't have to talk about your gas station, I don't have to talk about what you have done. Everybody have given you all these things. But when I saw at your age how you were attacked, I said to myself, it really takes a man to stand and while the other fellows start. So the second poem I want to give quickly, it's called If. And I really hope I have it there. If I don't, then I'm disappointed myself. But it's by a gentleman named Rudyard Kipling. He's an English philosopher, and it says this. And I want to dedicate that to you, sir. It says this. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not get tired of waiting, if you can be lied about but don't deal in lies, or be hated, don't give way to hating, and yet you don't look too good nor talk too wise, if you can dream and not make dream your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aims, if you can meet both triumph and disaster and treat those two importers just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by calves to make trap for fools, or watch the things you have given your life to be broken and stood and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings, risk it one all on a turn of pitch and lost, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word again about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve you long after their efforts are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will that says to hold on, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose your common touch, if neither conks of friends or family can hurt you, and if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distant run, yours is the earth and everything in it. And after all, Mr. Winston, The earth is yours. Sir, I chose those two poems for you because after I did my little research about you, and like I said, I won't be too presumptuous to say that I know you personally, or of course you could be my dad or my granddad, but I respect you for what you have done for Dominica, and I am so pleased and humbled, absolutely humbled, beyond the imagination, to tell you thank you and congratulations for your contribution to Dominica, sir. But I would like to leave you with one little scripture, and it's taken from the book of Corinthians. It's chapter 4, verse 16, and maybe Pastor Rodney might elaborate on it. And it says this very quickly. It says essentially that, therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that is far outweighs what we have. We fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary and what is seen is eternal. So I choose these things as a gratitude, as a celebration, as my congratulatory expression of my appreciation for what you have done, and how much, as a young man growing up in Dominica, how much I look up to you, how much I understand the importance as a political scientist of the importance of the private sector in an economy, and how disdain it is to see how you were treated. And so all I can tell you is I love you and thank you. That's my contribution, sir.
Thank you very much, Dion. Thank you very, very much, Dion. And Dion, let me just say this to you. You're from Salisbury, huh?
Yes, sir.
And you must be careful being mentored by Mr. Gregoire. Okay, you're from Salisbury. So when you're making those comments, you know, you must make them like you're from Salisbury.
What did I do again? What have I done this time? You see, Pastor Rodney.
So when you're reading your scripture, you know, you don't leave it for Pastor Rodney to explain. That's what Mr. G does, right? But you're from Salisbury. You need to just do that yourself. Thank you very much, Dion.
All right, you're welcome. And Mr.
Good.
Sukie, thanks again.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're wondering what's happening here. We're honoring Herbert Sukie Winston from this perspective. Listen, this is the people's honoring. And those of you who want to interact with us, I'll tell you what, by 8 o'clock, we'll take a little pause and we'll take your calls. I need some of you to call by 8 o'clock. Just give me a moment. Let me get rid of some of those voice clips that we have here. And I have some people, of course, on air with me this evening. And then we'll take your calls because like I shared with Mr. Winston when we spoke, this is not like any other honoring. This is the people honoring the people. And I'm sure that must be even more appreciated by you, Mr. Winston.
It makes a great difference.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's the people honoring the people. So let me get back to a couple of clips here. And I have a few very nice people, very important people who are about to share. One of them is Babs Dyer. And then you'll hear a cricketer by excellence, Lockhart Sibo Sebastian, followed by Julian Prevost. Let's take a listen to this gentleman.
Herbert Sukie Winston. And from now on, I will refer my friend Sukie. I have been associated with Sukie for many, many years. I've been with him as a friend, and our family have been together for years in business and friendship. Although I did not meet Sukie at school. But I realized we had something in common, and that is we sold bread and delivered bread to the shops of Roseau. Grew up in bread making like me. The difference between us is that he did it on a bicycle, but I did it in baskets on my head. So you delivered your bread, you sold it to people like Zabo and Harold and Mark Hawks and so on. Sukie went to the Dominica Grammar School, and that's my alma mater, the Dominica Grammar School. I did not meet him at the grammar school. But one thing that struck me is that he always remembered the Dominica Grammar School. And I think he's one of the very few students who almost demonstrated that I was a grammar school boy. I think very few people have the grammar school blazer and tie. And I think the last time I saw him wear that was when he buried his mother at the funeral. He was dressed, I think, in this blazer and tie. And that always struck me. Because I was always once the president of the old non-grammar school, these old students, when they changed from co-ed education. He, like lots of us, Sukie came from humble birth. And both of us have kept, just like me from humble birth, kept close to each other. As a matter of fact, we refer to each other as comrades. And we would discuss the past and the present, the political, economic situations in Dominica. I have always regarded Sukie as a hero in Dominica. And that is why when he received, his Cicero Award, and that is why when I received the Cicero Award, you have to have two people to accompany you to awardees before. And that is why I chose Sukie and Father Jolly to accompany me when I received my Cicero Award. Sukie has, in my view, assisted tremendously in the development of Dominica. Not only in the bread business, in the gas business, and one who strives to always be independent. Sukie and myself, because of that close relationship, we once appeared on the same political platform. That was when the opposition forces came together. I was an independent candidate. I remember that Sukie and myself and Flossie Joseph, in that getting together, we pledged our financial support. He would consult me. I think that what stands out very remarkable in my mind, and that Sukie, with all the achievements that he has made so far, and that is very important, he has never forgotten where he came from. I think that is very significant. I want to congratulate him for this other achievements, another achievements. And I also want to congratulate his wife, Vicky, and family, especially Vicky, because without Vicky, I do not think he would have achieved all this. My wife and family also join me in congratulating him on this other milestone in his life. Well done, comrade. God bless you.
Yes. And just make sure it's recorded.
Q95 could not have chosen a better person than Herbert Sukie Winton to give this award. I must say, I am honored and humbled that Sukie himself said to the organizers that I'm one of the persons who should really make a comment on his behalf. The late Thomas Baptist, may his soul rest in peace, who was the uncle of Sukie, said to me many years ago that when Sukie went to school, he baked bread and rode his bike to school and sold bread while he was at school. I got introduced to this man years ago, and we developed a friendship. And a number of times I would go to his gas station in the morning, we would have discussions, and he would really speak to me about how I could develop my business. And no praise should be too high for this man. This man has worked hard ever since he was a kid, and nobody should really get jealous of Sukie for what he has achieved today. Sukie Winton is one of the persons who we can describe as a truly great Dominican. And I must say, and I will say again, I'm honored that Sukie chose me as one of the people who should really speak on his behalf. And full marks to Sukie, my bro, you deserve everything you get today.
Wadix, to continue from this morning, having succeeded in the taxi business, I know that Sukie went into a new enterprise, which is the gas rental and gas bulk plant at Newtown and Canefield industrial site, respectively. You know that Sukie has a virtual monopoly on supply of gas, cooking gas, to most major outlets, restaurants and hotels, both around Dominica. The Blue Flame gas, you know, popular it is in Dominica already. Then he went into retail residence. You see a beautiful building, north of the Newtown Savannah. This is owned by Sukie Enterprise. And he has residences in Goodwill area too, quite a number of them. And they're doing very well, understand. I did some legal work for him and the wife. But I think the cap in it all is the purchase of the old Shillingford cocoa and lime processing plant east of his supermarket in Newtown. It consists of around 27,000 square feet, and Sukie intended to develop it into a very popular commercial center. But the most important thing about this purchase is that Sukie's mother, biological mother, worked there in that place all her life. Very low wages, and she had no back pay or gratuity at the end of her working life. Sukie intends to name that palace in her honor. Having accomplished so much, just a high school education, I wonder what Sukie would have done. What else would there have been for him to conquer if he had a college degree? I want to recommend to the powers that be that Sukie is allowed to teach a 1-hour class weekly to students of economics and and similar subjects were attending the state college. I think his day-to-day experience, which has paid off so well, will go a long way into teaching our entrepreneurs exactly how to succeed in a rough country like Dominica. I want to end by congratulating Sukie on this great achievement, that to be one of our national heroes as selected by Q95M, and I wish him well in the future.
You don't want to wait, stand in line and couple be like desperados. They chatting their own fate. They are villas. London every dollar, cause tomorrow might just be too late. We don't want to work hard like Sukie. 3 months too long to earn a salary. They want money, 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 money. Whether it's still they still or win the lottery. They want it now. They want it now.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you joining us right now on this program,
it now.
Honoring Herbert Sukie Winston on the 7th of March 2022. The first honoree for 2022, but the 9th honoree all told for Kudos for Q. I have 2 other people with me on the line. Corinne is here, and I don't know if CSM Alcindor is back. But Corinne, I'd like you to begin to talk to us. A very good evening to you, Corinne.
A very good evening to the listeners of Q95. A very good evening to Mr. Sukie Winston and his wife, who is in studio with you. A very good evening to Wadix. And to all of the members of the Kudos for Heroes Committee. I want to say that I followed Dr. Dion George, and I, too, Mr. Winston, cannot claim to know you personally. However, your bread knows me personally. I think your bread is in my DNA as I speak. Because there right now is not a bread in Dominica that I can see and pass by straight. So my grandmother lived in Newton, and every day we went up to my grandmother's house. She lived right next to Robbie's mom on the corner as you're coming down from Fortney. And we had to stop to get Sukie's bread on the way up. And when we were going back home to my mom, we had to stop to get Sukie's bread on the way down. And so your bread knows me. And I know you from all of the activities that you have participated in Dominica. I read a quote that said, if you are looking for new and different horizons, observe the people around you, but never try to do exactly as they do, because life's paths are many and varied. And I too did some research about you, but my research has been going on for over the years. And as I read this quote, there are some of the characteristics that you exude in Dominica that dispels what this quote says. And I re-quoted and I said, if you're looking for new and different horizons, observe the people around you and try to do exactly what they have done. And the characteristics that I would like us Dominicans, young, and you're never too old to start something or continue, as Mr. Sukie has told us, is that the first one is integrity. That you have displayed integrity, honest, strong, moral principles, uprightness. Warren Buffett has a quote. He says, when he is looking for employees, no matter what the level of skill, the first character trait he seeks is integrity. And if integrity is not present, he will not hire that person. And you, sir, has demonstrated to me, who have observed you from afar, integrity. And this program is about honoring the heroes, but also I always hope it's about inspiring those who will come after us. Because there are a lot of intelligent, smart, young people in Dominica who can benefit from seeing and knowing what people like you, Mr. Winston, has done and how you have lived your life and how you have inspired me as a young girl growing up in Dominica from observing you from that distance. Prudence. I am not that old, but I am young enough to know, Mr. Herbert, that you know quite a bit about what's going on in Dominica. And the prudence that you have displayed is you govern and you self-discipline using reason, discretion, and caution in practical matters. There are many things that has happened to you, and you have used Q95 sparingly to air some of your concerns. And you, to me, you're like a sleeping lion. But when you roar, everyone stands up and listens, even me. And your words have been an inspiration to me, but I took from that the prudence with which even you've uttered the words, the admonishments, the caution to those who are in power today. You are unapologetically Dominican. I remember the first time someone pointed you out to me. They said, this is the man over there in the short pants. And Sukie was always by the Savannah. I used to watch Harlem and Kinsborough play on the Harlem Savannah. And Sukie was always there. I heard that football is your love. And I am not surprised to hear that. You root for Dominica. You want the best for Dominica. And what an inspiration it is to me and to all those who are listening to know that Dominica is worth fighting for. And if you could stay and help develop Dominica, then we too, those of us who are abroad and those of us who are still on the island, can make a contribution, no matter how small, to develop Dominica and be unapologetically Dominican. And the final character that I want all of us to imitate as we look for new and different horizons is that humility. Mr. Sukie, you need no additional thrills to know your value and your worth. You are who you are. You were created by God with your unique gifts and talents, and you do not need the accolades of others, no any additional thrills to be who you are, to contribute in the way that you have, and to continue to do so as a man among the people, a man whom everyone can walk up to and have a conversation with, a man who has no ears and does not need to put himself above anyone else, yet to be a giant in our society. And for that, I thank you. For all of these characteristics, I thank you. And for all of these characteristics, I thank you for giving to us who look at you from afar and to those who know you up close for the contributions that you've made and continue to make. We thank you. And these characteristics will last for all of your life, and even when you're gone. Those are the treasures that you have given to Dominica. And for that, you are a true Dominican hero. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corinne. Thank you. Thank you so kindly. Let's go back to the to the voice notes that we have here, and we're going to take another 3 of them: Petronell Green, David Bruni, and Dr. Irvin I.P. Pascal. Give a listen.
For me, Petronell Green, I must say that it has been a very close and amazing friendship between Mr. Herbie Sukie Winston and myself for well over 60 years now. I first got to know him in my preteen years when he was transporting bread from his adopted and godparents' bakery located in Lower Newtown. I remember him calling his godparents by the names Nenen Flory and Pawen Siwo. Sukie at that time was transporting the bread on a bicycle where there were 2 or more bags on the handlebar, 2 or more bags on the back carrier, and 2 bags on his head. That was the feature of Mr. Herbie Sukie Winston every morning before school. And so Sukie would every morning make a stop beside my grandmother's house, put a bike and its load to stand against the roadside edge or drain, remove the bags of bread from the top of his head, and give to our home its allotment of bread, which really was just about 6 to 7 penny type bread, as we call it in those days. Then Sukie would tie back the bag, replace onto his head, and then continue his journey southwards towards Point Michel, making repeated stops along the way, just as he had done at my grandmother's house, at my home. Really, to do something like that daily for between 5 to 7 years, when I reflect, was an amazing feat indeed. Of course, in addition, Sukie had to assist the baking crew in the rolling of the bread dough and its placement on balisier leaf. So really, for a young schoolboy, those days, his sleeping hours were not much. Sukie in those days also had a flock of sheep to look after, to have them tied on the Newtown Savannah in the mornings and take them back to the pens in the evening. All of the above continued throughout his secondary school years at the Dominica Grammar School, where our friendship grew greater. From there, after school days at the grammar school, Sukie moved to having this small van on which he placed a wooden box with a covering to transport the bread. During those years also, Sukie continued his studies in business with international correspondence schools. And every night one could see Sukie on the porch of his godmother, godparents. If he's not there, he would be in the bakery assisting the bakers. I recall at some point, Sukie took employment on one of the gift ships that was transporting bananas to England. However, he very quickly realized that working for himself was a better option for his life. And so he continued with his baking, increasing on his clientele, moving to the north of Roseau and so forth. Soon after, he added to his armory trucking. He worked on the Ports of Hatton Garden Road project with the Canadians. Soon after that, Sukie added the taxi service to Melbourne Hall Airport. Here he was ably assisted by his devoted, dedicated and lovely wife, Vic. All of these times, Sukie also owned a herd of cows, which at the end of a hectic and tiring day, he had to go and check them, change them, and what have you. Now, of course, as a businessman, owning cows, he also ventured into butchering. And so every now and then, the people of Newtown and the further afield could get fresh beef from Sukie at Newtown. For some time after, Sukie also ventured into showing of movies, and for this, he eventually had a large audience, a large following. Well, this is just a snapshot, a small snapshot of Sukie in the early days, for which many of our today folks are not aware of. All of this past hard work is what is now paying off in what the public is presently seeing, or what they're able to see right now, which I will not go into because it's there for all to see. Now, despite all of this, what I've just said, Sukie also had his fun time along the way. As a young boy, Sukie enjoyed roller skating. He enjoyed dancing and dances. He greatly enjoyed his carnival. He greatly enjoyed going to watch Thunderbirds and Harlem at the Windsor Park. And something a lot of people don't know about Sukie. Sukie is he was and is still a great humorist at whatever level, well, politics, religion, or the socials. And so I want to believe that one great hallmark of Mr. Sukie Winton, one great hallmark of his life is the consistency and efficiency of the way he scheduled and operated within his 24-hour day. To me, that has been an amazing feat, and this is what has led him to the man he is today. And of course, in addition, I need to close by saying that despite all of that, this gentleman, Mr. Sukie, has remained throughout a very humble gentleman, very humble. Of course, as one who was close to him all along, or has been close to him all along, I want to believe that this humility is something that was rubbed onto him by the very humble folks that raised him, Nenen Flory and Pawen Siwo. This is the end of my small snapshot on my friend Sukie Winton.
Good evening, David Bruni here. It gives me great pleasure to speak at such an auspicious occasion and to recognize the business greatness that is Mr. Herbert Winton. Congratulations, sir, and enjoy the fruits of your undoubted hard work and sound business acumen. You are undoubtedly a great Dominican who should be emulated by youthful entrepreneurs. Indeed, whenever I incorporate a company or register a business name for any young person, Herbert Winton is the role model I point to as a shining example and someone who, by his sound business ethics, has from humble beginnings demonstrated outstanding commercial success. Sir, you are undoubtedly one of our great ones. Have a great evening with your good wife and enjoy the occasion.
Greetings. Mr. Herbert Winton, who I affectionately know as Sukie. I say these few words based only on the little I know from my personal experience of living what I call the Sukie energy. I hasten to add that the little I know, I'm sure, is the least of what there is to know about the Sukie energy. This Sukie energy, as I call it, that I cannot adequately find words to describe or define. And the closest thing I could come to describing that lived experience of the Sukie energy is my first visit to Ethiopia, where I felt a kind of sacredness and an ancientness being in the place. Being subjected to the Sukie energy is a kind of similar experience. It's an experience of being in the presence of the ancients, the wise, the experience, the calmness, and basically a humility in submission to what is, to the Creator. Every interaction I have had with the Sukie energy, in every interaction I've had with the Sukie energy, he demonstrates and reminds me of some instructions I received from another Dominican elder who is now deceased. Those instructions were, and Sukie, I thank you for helping me to not even remember them, but to live them. Be comfortable. Don't forget your roots. Be honest in all transactions. Avoid impressions. Listen. Watch your tongue. Be careful with commitment. And you need to be able to sleep at nights. Sukie has no idea that every interaction with him is a demonstration of those instructions. So for me, Sukie is indeed a living ancestor, the original African, and by that I mean the best human being that one can be. And I will end this with a little compliment that Sukie tends to pay me. When he wants to compliment me, he always says, "Partner, when I grow up, I want to be big like you." My dear friend, I now return the compliment with a little addition. Sukie, when I do grow up, I want to be bigger than you. May the spirits of the ancestors continue to guide and protect you always.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you give a little more than you take, and if you try to fix more than you break, if you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you. If you stand up for those down on their knees and lend a voice to those who cannot speak, if you shine a little light, give sight to the ones who've lost their way, there's a place for people like you.
2 minutes to 8 o'clock on a Monday evening, the 7th of March, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here honoring Herbert Sukie Winston, our 9th hero in our quest to recognize those who've impacted our society. And like Corinne or one of them said earlier on, this is not just about celebrating holidays. But ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, my friends all, it is about showing us what those who are walking ahead of us have been able to accomplish, have been able to do, and helping the rest of us to begin to add on to that which God has granted us, so that we ourselves can leave a legacy when we are not here anymore. So as you listen intently, listen with a spirit of celebration, but listen with a heart that's willing to learn and grow, okay? I have a few more clips, and I know I promised you, those of you who are already trying to call me, that we'll open the lines at 8 o'clock, but you need to forgive me, really forgive me tonight. We got a lot of people who have a lot of things to say about this one Herbert Sukie Winston. And I probably have about 6 more clips, and I want to get through them. All right. So if you give me a few minutes, I'm going to take a few more of them, and then we will get right to you. I want first to start. I think this is Sukie's daughter, Sandra. Sandra, yes. And then we'll have Winston, Trevor Thomas, and another great gentleman in Dominica who we honored here some time ago, Ozzy Luis. And after them, we'll have another 2 or 3 more. And then we'll open the lines and we'll have a chit chat right here. So let's be patient and let's listen now to Sandra Grano Winston Lawrence.
Greetings. I am Sandra Grano Winston Lawrence. It's with great pleasure that I nominate my father, Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston, for National Hero. Today, he is recognized for his hard work as a pioneer businessman and father who has built his empire from a humble beginning. Mr. Winston, extraordinary commitment to provide services in taxi service, selling bread from his bicycle, and selling chicken and chips from his caravan. His expansion and growth in his business has provided exceptional support and employment in the community of Newtown. He has almost touched all Dominicans through his brick oven hot bread, gas station, supermarket, rental properties, restaurant, and marina. Beyond all of his achievements, he is a supportive father and advisor. He is a Dominican. He is a charismatic leader. He is a no-nonsense man. He is a fighter and a crusader. He is a man who takes up challenges. He does not give up, and he is a true patriot. Thank you.
Tribute to Mr. Herbert Winston, aka Sukie. I've known Mr. Herbert Winston from since childhood. He has been a very close family friend, and now he's one of my best friends and like a father to me. Mr. Winston Sukie is a role model to our society. He is a family man, very loving, helpful, and encouraging to others. He is a God-fearing person and has worked very hard to be at this stage now. He's one of our most successful local businessmen and has brought a lot to the country, such as services in different areas and employment to our people, while staying humble. I highly respect and recommend him. God bless. Winston Thomas. God bless, comrade.
It is with a profound sense of honor that I embrace this opportunity to pay homage to an outstanding son of the soil, to a truly remarkable Dominican who is deserving of all the accolades and all the encomiums with which he's been showered today. Herbert Winston, also known as Herbie, Sukie, Mr. Sukie, as I choose to call him Lord Sukie, hails from Newtown, grew up in Newtown, attended the Rosa Boys School in Newtown, and later went to the Dominica Grammar School before pursuing a business administrative course at the London School of Business in London. Herbert did not know his biological father before he was 11, his father having migrated to Aruba before he was born. And Sukie, the young Sukie, was brought up by his adopted grandfather, Siwo of happy memory, and his dear wife, Ma Flori, as she was called. They operated a very modest shop and bakery at the back at Newtown. And so from about age 7, Herbie was very involved in the bread business. He had to devote many hours to this enterprise, having to distribute many baskets of bread to villages like Lube, Point Michel in the south, and back to Maho on his trusty bike, an old rally bike which exists today, the very same bike that helped him on his journeys. The original bike is displayed encased at the entrance of the bread shop in the same location, with the words emblazoned below it, the words "from a humble beginning." Okay. Possessed of a great work ethic and boundless energy and a very uncommon business acumen, Sukie expanded his business undertakings and delved into the taxi business, heavy equipment. He was a butcher. Also, he ran supermarkets, guest houses, got involved in LPG and a gas station, and his most notable investment to date, when he acquired the A.C. Shillingford lime processing plant next door to his bread shop. Sukie says this major investment of acquiring that plant was a total commitment to his deceased mother, who died about some 4 or 5 months ago at age 104. She having worked for nothing, he said, at that very same factory, the Newton factory. And that place, he says, is earmarked for a shopping plaza. Herbert has also a marina unit or marina outfit and a boatyard in the same area. Sukie has indeed transformed the entire landscape at Newton and with his hard work and investments. But it would be very wrong to assume that this hardworking man was only preoccupied with business and commercial undertakings. He was also a very great, or still is, a great calypso lover. And his favorite calypsonians are the Hurricane Cliff Jacques and also the reigning king, King Dice. These are his favorite kings. Sukie is also a great football fan. But what I remember very well, many instances where Sukie would make dramatic, spectacular appearances during great epic clashes between football titans, Harlem and Kensborough. Sukie would come in with his dressed in white suits and with a white hat and carried also a cane. And he also feigned, if you like, a limp in the manner of those wealthy millionaires, to the great attention of the fans at the Windsor Park. His favorite football club is Manchester City in the English leagues. And Sukie has also sponsored many football clubs in his time, but he has never really been an active footballer on the field. A man of great diversity and versatility, Sukie also made a foray in the hurly-burly world of national politics, contesting, albeit unsuccessfully, the Roseau South seat in 1975, losing to Ronald David, deceased. A very close call it was. His mentors, who were his mentors? Who are his mentors? Well, his mentors are the great, or were, having passed, the great Leo Emanuel, deceased, Norman Roll, deceased, and of course, his very dear friend and a very successful businessman, Mr. E.H. Charles. Sukie Winston certainly deserves to be recognized as a national hero for all his myriad achievements. Surely he has left gigantic footprints on the sands of time. This man, Herbert Sukie Winston, is indeed a legend and an icon from Newtown and can be considered a national hero. who came from, as he says, a humble beginning.
We just heard from Sandra Grano Winston Lawrence, from Winston Trevor Thomas, and Ozzy Lewis himself. Let's just take two more of those voice clips, one from Adler Hamlet and the final one from Monsignor Eustace Thomas. And then we'll get to take your calls. And I need to have a little chit chat with Mr. Winston. And I'm sure all of those on my panel tonight will have some additions and some curry and some seasoning pepper and so on to add to this evening as we enjoy the celebration. So let's take a moment and listen to Adler Hamlet, followed by Monsignor Eustace Thomas.
Mr. Herbert Winston, better known as Sukie, to me is an all-encompassing businessman. I know Sukie way back as a schoolboy and as a taxi driver plying the Roseau to Melvin Hall Airport route. At that time, I didn't know Sukie or perceived that Sukie was so multi-talented an individual. Since my knowledge of Sukie was confined mainly to what I can now say was the courting of his future wife. So I saw Sukie as a taxi driver who liked Vic, as we call her in Marigot. Her full name, I think, is Victoria. However, I rarely got to know Sukie when I started living at Castle Comfort and had to walk past his main business place on Victoria Street during my regular walks. It's by stopping to greet and chat with Vic, my countrywoman, as one would say, I began having regular interactions with Sukie. By that time, however, I had an appreciation of some of the things that Sukie was involved in as a businessman. But what these stops and interactions did was to give me a better understanding of the depth of character of the man called Sukie. I've always found Sukie to have a very pleasant disposition, and at no time have I ever come to believe that his disposition was a put on, as there seemed always to be that ease of fairness and honesty about whatever the matter before him was. Now, despite whatever he may be going through at the time, Sukie never gives the impression that he is unduly ruffled, and always show a degree of tolerance, which I find quite exemplary. But there are still other excellencies of character that I have seen Sukie displayed, such as kindness, modesty, and a deep sense of humor. For no matter what may be in discussion between us, we never parted unless there was some sort of humor that brought laughter to both of us. Now, beside the depths of character of Mr. Winston, the thing that most amazes and impress me about Sukie is his business acumen. His business prowess is so evident in the diversification approach to his business ventures. For the uninformed, Sukie seems to be in everything, and not having had what I would say a tertiary level business education, Sukie, in my mind, understands the benefits and advantages of business diversification in an economy of a small market size, and how this diversification is used as a means of managing risk. There's no need for me to try to enumerate the number of business units that Sukie is involved in, but suffice it to say that Sukie demonstrates his personal and direct involvement in what I view as the critical task in the products or services that he offers. Clearly, for those of us who know Sukie and have been able to observe his modus operandi, should have no doubts in our minds that Sukie is one of the hardest working businessmen in this country of Dominica. And as my mother used to say, hard work never kills. And to me, Sukie is living testimony of that saying.
My dear friends and God's people, it is my distinguished privilege and joy to congratulate Mr. Herbert Winston, fondly known as Sukie, my schoolmate and friend, as he is honored by QFM for a significant contribution to his community and to our nation. Each time I pass Newtown, I feel satisfied and elated when I notice Sukie's humble beginning slogan and encased bicycle on the rooftop of his bakery. I marvel at the humility of this self-made super businessman who has touched the lives of many through his ambition, which brought about his managerial skills. As my schoolmate, Sukie demonstrated a life of simplicity, and already as a student, he was seen as a thinker, a philosopher who was quiet and observant and by no means loud. On the contrary, he exhibited an entrepreneurial spirit. Little wonder that while some may have thought that he was enigmatic, and I think that today he can be considered an astute businessman, he was beyond us in his thoughts. While this young man worked assiduously at school, when his classes were over, he went full throttle in the afternoons as he delighted in transporting bread to his customers, but in view of preparing his future by earning a living in a simple manner. By the way, not everybody was privileged to have had a bicycle, and already Sukie could show off riding with style and fashion. So today, bearing in mind his tremendous success as a businessman, I dare say that he must have previously been thinking of becoming, albeit in an unadorned way, an aristocratic bourgeois. Because as it is said, while he dined with princes, he never lost touch with the common people. Actually, Sukie has been criticized and misunderstood for putting his hands in everything. But he did so to be assured that his work was done with class, and he was teaching his contemporaries the importance and dignity of work. There are too many young men begging in the streets and insulting those who refuse to fall to the demands. Well, Sukie lives and teaches by example and follows the advice of St. Paul to the people of Thessalonica, which states, "For even when we were with you, we commanded you this, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat." 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10. So I can say, without fear of any contradiction, Mon sa di sa yo vle asi Sukie, yo sa méprisé kon yo le, mais personne pas sa di Sukie feyan. Therefore, it is with a sense of pride and joy that I thank Sukie for his hard work, and I felicitate him for his contribution to his community and to our country. Yes, you have taught us that working hard will not kill us. I must confess that I have teased Sukie about the importance of resting and to make a contribution to my own special project, and he would laugh. However, a few days ago, I met him in his territory, the bank, and before I could utter a word, he told me that he needed my telephone number. And guess what? He asked me to write it on the cover of his checkbook, and I complied. So thanks, Sukie, for giving me hope. And should my request be considered, I shall be extremely happy to express my gratitude to you on account of your liberality. Once again, thanks for asking me to share these few words, and do accept my sincere congratulations on your achievement. You have instilled in us the importance of hard work, and consequently, I make bold to consider you a national icon. Thank you.
I owe it all to you, that's why I want to say thank you, boy. There is no greater satisfaction than living to serve your fellow man. My own greatest joy and glory is competing here for you every day in Carnival City. Always worthy driving force behind me. Sometimes I might have get on when things get tough. We some niggas we don't satisfy easy. You gave me so much, I hope I get back enough. But my work is done here, and I want you to know I leave no hard feelings as I go. I gave my best, cause you depended no less. It was you who made my calypso life a success. I just want to thank you. I owe it all to you. I owe it to you. I owe it all to you. I owe it to you. My victories and my triumphs too. I give it all to you. Thanks to all those who supported me, those who opposed and who challenged me. You forced me to bring out the best in me. Whoa, whoa. I owe it all to you. I owe it to you. In all that.
One of Sukie's favorite calypsos. I owe it all to you by the Hurricane.
Is the hardest thing I ever.
24 minutes after 8 o'clock on a Monday evening, the 7th of March, and we are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston here on Q95. Let's talk to a few of you on the telephone. Of course, you don't have 3 minutes. You have a few seconds with me. Good evening. We are honoring Sukie Winston. Hello. Yes, good night.
Yes, good night.
Yes, good night.
Yeah, I want to congratulate this well-deserved hero tonight, Brother Sukie, with such an abundant, active, and full life. I'm not sure he would remember the curious event which led to the two of us meeting. It was in 1976, I think, in front of what they call the Green Grotto Dance Hall. It appeared to me that there was some kind of ruckus, some kind of trouble, and he was in the middle of it, and he was being hustled and roughed up, and I got involved, seeking to help out. I don't know if he remembers, but Sukie could perhaps finish the story. But from there, we grew to be good friends, and I consider him a brother, and I want to congratulate this brother. All the respect and blessings on this, I consider to be a real Dominican hero.
And that sounds like the Honorable Ronald Green?
That's it. You got it. Good voice, man.
Thank you very much. Sukie's shaking his head about that. I'm sure he remembers the story very well.
Very well, distinctively.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron.
All right, brother.
God bless. On the telephone, good evening. We're honoring Herbert Sukie Winston. You have a few seconds with me.
Yes, good evening, Pastor Randy, and good evening to the rest of the people. Congratulations to the people who have put this thing together, Sing to a Hero. I just want to say, and I want the people to understand something. Sukie, very methodical as an entrepreneur. He chose very wisely. He selected his investments with care. He weighed the risk against the return. And so it is said that at the back of every successful man is a strong woman. So he traveled to the northeast corner of Dominica in the village called Marigot to select his wife, Vicky.
You had to add that, didn't you?
So he stood, it was the strength also came from a very family of strong women who were very serious in business and finance. And so it is also this family life. So you can see he brought his business acumen into his family life. So as a father, he also took that very same care and precision, honesty and things into his family life. He now has a beautiful family, his wife and kids, and his business as well.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
I would advise any young man going into business to select a strong woman at your back.
From Marigot.
Thank you.
God bless you, sir. On the telephone, good evening. We are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston. You have a few seconds with me.
Pastor Randy Rodney, good night to you.
Yes,
and good night to the team. Good night to a man of worth, a man of dignity, Sukie Winston. Sukie is a great man with great values, a God-fearing person, a humble man that comes from humble beginnings, an intelligent man, an honest man, a man with a big heart, a man who has contributed so much to Newtown and the Commonwealth of Dominica, a man of worth, a man of dignity, a man of integrity, an ambassador to his country, a man among men, a family man, a loving man, a man who stands for principle, what is right and what must be done in the interest of Dominica. A role model, a man of class. And I'm happy to know this man. I'm happy to associate myself with this man. Sukie, this is Michael Copeland that is speaking, and I'm going to have a glass of wine on you tonight. You deserve it.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Deserve it. Hats off to you, and I commend your wife for standing all those years with you. God bless.
Thank you very much. For those of you listening to us, we are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston tonight. And the kudos for Q right here on Q95. The 7th of March, 2022. Now, Sukie, I want you to tell us something. That Sukie, that name Sukie, could you give us its genesis?
At one stage of my very early life, and under the hardship of assisting my parents, my adopted parents, it was unique, a piece of investment that my old man, Mr. Sewell, felt that I needed some form of transportation because we had a brick oven. Up to now, it still lies in the corner of the existing bakery, though we are all fitted with the latest devices. But be as it may, wood had to be transported, and the flour also had to be transported from the Roseau Customs. So my uncle, Mr. Lum, Fidel Lum, deceased, had a van, an Austin van, and something went wrong, and the van reached at the this place in Marigot, that is in Concord, but the upper section of Concord, and it went in the river. And then he informed my old man, who was his uncle, that this van is fitted but the box is smashed. So he said, well, we could have it repaired by putting in a wooden box at the back of it. This is what we did. We rescued the vehicle, took on the vehicle, and then did some major repairs, but discarded the rear end,
the box,
the metal box. And be as it may, at the time, there was a very popular tune by King Fighter of Trinidad, Come Let We Go Sukie.
Okay.
So I felt it was most appropriate to engrave on the box the writings of Come Let We Go Sukie.
Okay.
But after usage, it got sort of dilapidated, and it had to be repaired, most obviously. So the upper section of the box, which marked Come Let We Go, had to be removed.
And the Sukie part stayed.
And the Sukie section stayed on. Thanks to the visionary friends of mine who said, well, we will fit in with the name Sukie. Leave it just as is. And this is what was done.
Interesting.
From there on, the name Sukie and the engravement was retained, and I associated it with the bakery, which was the pioneer occupation of my time. So this is actually how it all
interesting. Very, very interesting. I always wondered about it, and I'm glad to hear that story tonight. On the telephone, good evening. We are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston. You've got a few seconds with me.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I would like to congratulate Mr. Sukie Winston and also his family. Mr. Winston, I admire him a lot. And I said I would have nominated him. I have done that, nominated him to be our president of Dominica. This man is clever. This man is very, 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 this man speaks real good. He works hard. He deserves it. I wish he would be the president of Dominica. Thank you.
I hope he'll accept that nomination. I've already suggested to him that that's the next position for him. I hope he will accept that nomination. Mr. G, I'm coming right back to you in a while. On the telephone, good evening. We are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston tonight.
Good evening, Pastor. I want to join in all the congratulations to Herbert Sukie Winston on his achievements and the award being afforded to him. I know Mr. Winston from my mother at the Church. But more so, I got to know Mr. Winston while being airport manager at the Melbourne Kingston Airport.
Yeah, would you speak up a little louder, please? You get a little faint.
Yeah, I got to know Mr. Winston through my mom at HHC as a businessman. What a respectful and diligent businessman. But more personally, I got to know Mr. Winston when I worked at the airport as air traffic controller and the airport manager. And literally, we were at the mercies of the taxi operators at the time. Mr. Winton, Royce Winton, Mr. Herbert, because there was no public transportation. And to get to Melbourne, we had to go on the side of the road at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And Winston used to pick us up and explain to his passengers, look, without this guy, the plane can't come in, you can't get your flight is delayed, it is cancelled. So hence the reason why we come up. And on the way to the airport, we used to engage with the passenger, Mr. Winston, before you know it, you're at Mali. But here comes, fast forward, I become now airport manager. I'm in charge now of Mr. Winston or the taxi service, regulate the taxi operators and discipline and otherwise. And anytime we had a situation involving Mr. Winston would never ever reproach me and say, well, honest, the times when I pick you up at the police or pick you up when it was raining. Never. That is a gentleman, man. And I respect him fully and highly. And all I can say, congratulations, comrade. And the same thing Dr. IT says. I say, B, boy, when I get, and before I can finish it, comrade, I want to be as big as you when I get big. So congratulations, sir. Highest award. And God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to hear all of this. Dr. Simone, I understand you've got lots of people on Facebook who are with us tonight, and some of them are sharing their congratulatory messages. Would you bring us up to speed, please?
Yes, thank you, Pastor Rodney. And of course, thank you to our Q95 listeners who are listening attentively to this program, and they're here to celebrate Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. But we have quite an audience on Facebook as well, and we want to thank them for stopping by, and of course, the hundreds of others who will stop by to wish Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston congratulations. Mr. Winston, if you ever have an hour or two and you want to see all the accolades which was sent to you, we would encourage you to visit the Q95 page. Q95 FM radio is the page. Or if you have any doubts of the contribution that you've made to Dominica and humanity as a whole, I would encourage you to check out some of the comments. Of course, we've had almost over 100 people at one point, so it's way too many comments for us to take, but we want to thank everyone on the Facebook Live, including Owen Prosper, Peter Carbon, Everlasting Peter, Glenda Isles, Justina Charles, Patricia Fontaine, Manuel Pierre, and Patricia says, he deserves his flowers. Great man, hard-working man too. One can always count on him. So we have the likes of Henrietta James, who is here with us, Glenda Isles, Carl Kofi James is here, Jim Nelson, Indigenous Bushman is here, Ivinia Joseph, Jennifer Cuthy, Marina Charles, Leo Awa, Eileen Peltier. That's what real education does. It makes us a logical thinker. So we want to thank everyone who's joining us on the Facebook Live and offering such great commendations and congratulations to Mr. Herbert Sukie Winston. David Joseph, congratulations to you, sir. Well-deserved honor. A great and distinguished Dominican. New Thrithen is here. Congratulations. Anthea Beverly Johnson, Snapalo Ra. So we have quite an audience. And again, we want to just thank everyone who stopped by. And again, those of you who will jump on the Facebook page and leave a message of congratulations to Mr. Herbert Sukie William. We certainly want to thank you. Marshall Lawrence, thank you for your comments. Cheryl Bernadette, thank you as well. Michael Alexis, I think we also saw Viva Mamo is here. Franklin Bradshaw. So again, Mr. Sukie Winston, if you ever have a minute and you want to read all the accolades which were sent your way this evening, I think they're confirming that we here on the committee made the absolute best choice, and you are the people's choice for this award this evening. So we're happy to be here with you to celebrate, and it is so refreshing when we hear you say that you're still energized. You still have so much more to offer to Dominica. So we're looking forward to continuing to follow your journey along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Let me get back to the telephone. Good evening. We are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston, and you have a few seconds with me.
Hey, good evening, Pastor Rodney.
Yes, how are you, man?
I'm good. Let me say good evening to Mr. Sukie, who I call Biggest Boss. He's one of the bosses that is still working hard, have his hands in the machine, still working like everybody else, just as another ordinary worker. And that's one of the things I admire about him. I want to say that I've heard of Sukie from a little boy, but I remember him most vividly when he had to snack it at the market. So there was Sukie snack it at the market. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but that's where we started interacting with the person. We just hearing about the name, but we actually saw the person, because as young boys, we had them snack it at the market, and we used to always be, when the market was built, the market was like our playground. Although at that time it was heavily guarded, it was nice, pretty building at the time that you just couldn't come and vandalize stuff there. But he was one of the people who had a restaurant or snack it there at the time, and we interacted with him. So I just wanted to put that on the table, but more than that, say kudos to he and his family for what he has done over the years for Dominica and Dominicans. But most of all, I really admire him when I just see him. He's still delivering bread. He still drives around delivering bread, still have his hands working in the business till they're opening the gas station in the morning. And I admire that about him as a boss, but he's still down there on the level working like everybody else. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Well, I've interacted with Mr. Winston quite some, and there are a couple of things that I want us to take away tonight, and they come from all angles. One of the stories that I heard Mr. G from Mr. Winston is his when he was a butcher, and I think Ozzy Lewis mentioned that, and how he had to walk with a cow from, was it Castle Bruce?
Victoria Delices.
From Victoria Delices. To take this cow into town. You know how long that took? Overnight, and then get across to Newtown in the, I mean, I don't know how many Dominicans today can talk about doing that kind of thing. I see Crispin, smiling at this. I don't know how many Dominicans would do that. But as you look at that, we can encapsulate that into a few areas. One, his business acumen, yes, but his ability to ensure he had multi-income streams and work hard at all of them and teach the people who working with him from his own self. He's not bringing a consultant to teach them because he knows the work himself. He's showing him how to do the work there, and he is expanding his business. I mean, modern day Dominicans have a lot to learn from that kind of example. And I believe if we had that kind of spirit all across the country, Mr. G, and I want both you and Ambassador Crispin to make a comment on that. Not very long tonight, but make a comment on that. If we had many more people doing that, quite possibly would have been able to make better decisions. And here's my argument on this, especially you, Crispin. Here's my argument on this. When we get people like this, then they can talk. They have a right to talk. They can express in a particular way and inform the direction of a national economy, inform the direction of a national agenda, because they come from a place where they have that experience. They are showing something. Your brief views, both Mr. G and Crispin in particular.
Well, Pastor Rodney, very quickly, I just want to recall one or two things that I heard said tonight. A true patriot, a charismatic leader, be comfortable, don't forget your roots, be careful with your commitments, watch your tongue. And but the thing about it is that from humble beginnings and all of that, but one of the things, Pastor Rodney, is that Ozzy Lewis kind of spoke about the walking the cow from Daly Cerozo, but he didn't sell out the whole secret. See, Ozzy gave a little bit of the thing out, but then Adler Hamlet came, and Adler Hamlet spoke about Mr. Sukie's prowess in Marigot. And then he said that he didn't say whether he walked from Roseau to Marigot, but in all the escapades, he obviously, whereas he diversified his business considerably, it seems to me when he made his trips to Marigot, he put all of his eggs in one basket. And I believe that is why he was so successful, because he had this tremendous lady from Marigot behind him. And I think that is one, you see, no matter how well how broadly diversified his business, he decided, something, I found this one pillar in my life that could help me in my life and create a business. In his own words, he says, look, he doesn't own anything. It's all about his family. It's about his wife and about his children. I think we have to give a lot of accolades tonight to Vicky for the role that she played in all of what Sukie has accomplished.
And so certainly, Mr. G, we need to do that. And some of you ladies on the panel here tonight need to know that Vicky is a backhoe operator.
Oh, you see what that's what I'm talking about.
So while Sukie is doing something else, Vicky is a backhoe operator. I mean, complementing the work and doing this thing together. I mean, you're talking about women who's been liberated. You're talking about a certain equality. You need to talk to Vicky about that. Vicky's not a big talker, but you need to talk to Vicky about that. Crispin, your views.
Yes. Well, as I listened throughout the evening, I come out with a different perspective on the man. All I can simply say is the jack of all trades. But the crowning one for me is the cow.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, when you have that experience, and I speak from experience too. I raised a cow as a child, so I know exactly what it means to. But to be the one raising the cow and to be its butcher is another chapter. So, but I think the important point here, Pastor Rodney, is that when you think of what this man has achieved in his lifetime, many of us don't come at least a quarter of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were talking about service to country, and you have that kind of resume, people who make decisions in government need to show me what they have learned before they went into government. And that's the lesson that I can make a connection to. Because a lot of people these days, they think that because they went to university, they have achieved, and they really haven't achieved yet. They have a lot to learn. And
right.
Mr. Winston has shown us that kind of hard work is what we need to instill in our young people. Thank you.
Right, good. Janice, I just spoke about Vicky being a backhoe operator. I mean, I'm right on target with that, right?
You're right on target.
Right, good. Janice, I mean, tell me, how does that now inform today's woman?
Well, I mean, I am a similar woman as Vicky, you know. I mean, I can, I know what that means. I know what that is. I have a little secret that I probably wasn't going to say, but I have known Mr. Sukie, Herbert Winston, since I was probably 6 years old. He helped my mother quite a bit with 6 of us, her children, by, often the bread that he would drop off. His sister Meme was a very good friend of mine, and we would go and deliver the breads. I don't know if he remembers that. It's Janice. I was tiny, I was small, but I made sure at the end of the day, I had my cut, to go home with. So there's a lot of history there. And I was born in River Street. He was born in River Street. And I am a child from, the Riverside. And so none of you understands what it is for me to sit here. I have grown, but I have grown up on the kindness and the goodness of this man. I'm not ashamed of it. It is why I am and who I am today. And I say, there are many angels walking around, and I wish my mother was here to see it today. So I can't talk too much because it's very emotional for me.
I get that.
But I owe a lot to him, as Hurricane says. I owe a lot to him.
Janice, I didn't know that, and I'm glad that I was led to ask you that question. Simon, briefly, same question. How do you see that informing today's woman in terms of the companion that Vicky has been to Sukie in terms of every aspect of his living?
Well, I think it speaks to women as being independent, because I noticed that we spent a lot of time talking about Vicky being the support system, but I also think that it is very important to recognize that women too can stand on their own. So I think part of what Vicky has done is shown that despite her husband's own success, that she's a success in and within her own self, that she can stand on her own 2 feet, that she can celebrate her husband's success, but she can also stand independently and have her success celebrated as well. And if I may also add to this conversation, because I think we've spent a lot of time celebrating what Mr. Winston has accomplished. But in my mind, the thought that keeps recurring is, how do we harvest this? Right? So here we have this exemplary example of someone who came from humble beginnings and was able to educate himself, was able to skillfully execute many of his plans and his initiatives. But what do we do with this? How do we pass this on to the next generation, which is something that is so needed in Dominica right now? So what do we do with this information to ensure that it does not simply remain Mr. Sukie's story, but it becomes the story of many, many more of the next generation? So how do we harvest what Mr. Sukie has done and spread it using a broad brush across Dominica to inspire, the next generation, maybe the generation even within Mr. Sukie's generation, who had hoped to accomplish more in their life? So for me, the question that it's living in my mind this evening is, what do we do with this information? So again, we say congratulations to Mr. Winston. We say congratulations to Vicky for proving her own success story as well. But at the end of the day, where do we go from here?
Great question, and I believe that we have to find ways to do that. This is a start. I think that's a platform for doing that, because what I believe it's doing is enlightening people as to what is possible. If like one person said earlier on, Sukie Winston could have accomplished this much without a PhD, without any one of these degrees. But he has grown to the point where we believe he has some stuff inside of him that we need now to teach those who are looking for their PhDs and help them think business in a very different way, think economy in a different way, think work in a different way, have a different work ethic, a different attitude. We're beginning that conversation, and I'm hoping that somebody suggested that probably Sukie should put that in a book. Would you comment on that?
I would ask. I was confronted with that very same suggestion, and particularly from Mr. Colin Baptiste, and I gave it some great thought, and I see the logistics of this whole suggestion. I would want to say, on the sideline, that this exercise here and the contribution by the nominees who took time out to give some form of encouragement by word, I would think it would take a little more than this program, because it sort of pricks me, it urges me to bring forth what the people don't know, and what I value to be important to the well-being and the development of the country. I would really take on, nourish the thought of being here next time around.
All right, I'm going to make you an offer, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go on a limb to do that. I'm sure Mr. G is here, and he's not going to throw me out, I'm sure. I'm going to go on a limb to say that we're going to take up that challenge with you, and Mr. G is going to give us a couple hours to do that. One of those is on radio, and we'll do that soon. All right?
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll do that soon. Mr. G, do I have your yes here?
You're talking about Herbert Sukie Winston,
Yes, sir.
I cannot say no to Herbert Sukie Winston. Don't forget, Father Thomas already spoke to you a little earlier this evening. He did not say which one of us ate most of the tablet, guage, and the umbrella and stuff. He didn't say that, but we were all eating it together. I cannot say no to Herbert Sukie Winston, so I'm sure we're going to arrange that.
We will arrange that. All right? We'll arrange that. Yes.
My people took time off to highlight my youthful achievements. I accept that. But interestingly, the man Sukie today is the next Sukie, because I would like to highlight the obstacles, not the achievement. The achievement was the youthful one.
Right.
But after you achieve, is there continuity? And you need to be able to highlight the challenges and whether there is any signal of hope for the next generation. Because one would ask, from there to where? And I have the answer to it. Because to what I think and to what is being portrayed is, I, as a person, a human being, I have been accusing the academics for not contributing significantly to the development of this country. And I am seeing, as the days run by, I am seeing the reason.
Yeah, yeah. We have had that conversation time and time again, and I'm sure, Mr. G, I'm going to put that on you again. We have to do that, and we need to do it soon, right? While Mr. G is contemplating on when we're going to do it and thinking about it. Corinne, you are here tonight, and I want to ask you this. I mean, it's already 3 minutes to 9 o'clock, but I want to ask you this. As you listen tonight to this whole thing, what's your greatest takeaway?
My greatest takeaway is that every single one of us are blessed with gifts. God has given every person something that is special, that belongs to them. And I would encourage everyone listening to us today to find your passion. Find that which is the gift that animates you, and use that gift to make a difference, first in your own communities and in the lives of others. The message that we have heard tonight is that Mr. Sukie Winton have harnessed the gifts that God has given to him, and he has taken those gifts as his yes and thank you to God, and has done something with it that is impactful and meaningful and continues to inspire all of us today. And the conversation around his dear wife sitting next to him, I don't buy into the dichotomies between men and women, but that everyone who is able to find that partner who can support their goals, who can love them through thickness and thin, through good and bad, and can truly together harness that gift. Because Dr. Martin Luther King tells us that every work is dignified. And whether you are in the background or you're in the foreground, the work that you do is dignified. Whether you are a homemaker or you are the businessman, the work that you do is dignified. And there is no dichotomy to be had in my world around what is a man's work and what is a woman's work. It's about harnessing the gifts that God has given to both men and women and using that to make a difference and using that to truly love each other into being, which is what I can see has happened with Mr. and Mrs. Winton.
I'm not going to preach on that, but I'll share briefly something here, and Mr. Winton will say a few words, and then I'm going to come to you, Dion, because I want you shared tonight that you didn't know Mr. Winton, you had to research, but I want you to make a comment on tonight, what you've heard, and I'll tell you something, the half has not yet been told as far as this man's story is concerned. What we heard tonight is not close to his real story, right? It's really not close. Corinne, you know what God said about this? God says that two of us become one, and a wife becomes a help that is fitting for a husband. We'll talk about that at a subsequent newscast. Mr. Winton.
Amen.
Let me just say, sir, with all due respect to the family structure Sukie would never be Sukie without Sukie and Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make it abundantly clear.
Right.
And this is the reason why her portfolio is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She carries the keys for the Treasury.
Yes.
And without the keys, the Treasury can't open and to serve the workers and the nation at large. So she holds the portfolio of the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
I got that feeling, you know. I've got that feeling. I mean, in the interaction I've had with you and her, I got the feeling you're a smart man. You're a bright gentleman, Mr. Winston. Ladies and gentlemen, we get down where we do the actual presentation in the next few minutes. It's already just about 1 minute to 9 o'clock. We'll do the actual presentation momentarily. But as we prepare to do that, I want Dion to make a comment on what I asked him to, and then Mr. G, I'll come back to you as we prepare to make that presentation shortly. Dion.
Pastor Randy Rodney, thank you very much for inviting me to comment on Mr. Sukie. Mr. Sukie, may God bless you continually and your wife. I had something to say, but I didn't want to interrupt. I just felt that let it go on. But I think now that I have gotten the opportunity, I will take 2 minutes to say it. First of all, I want to comment on the statement you made about your wife. Thank you so much. And ma'am, Vicky, may God bless you. And thank you so much for standing by your husband, that God created a helper for man, and you have fulfilled that. The other thing I want to say, I think it would be remiss of me not to say that Miss Janice, I think we talked on the program, putting this show together, but I did hear the inflection in your voice, and I do want to acknowledge it that I think that you spoke from the heart when you spoke about the goodness of the gentleman and your appreciation of him. And I just want to tell you kudos to you and thank you, sir. But also I want to make some comments also about some of the things that I heard that I just felt that I would mention. You know, oh my God, so much has been said since I said something, but I will say that, I mean, I can go to sports, to farming. And when I say farming, it could be pastoral farming in terms of cows and whatever, and agriculture, and so much to be said. But I will keep it very simple, and I will just say this. I will go to 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 6 and 7. I'll say that in all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, honor when Jesus Christ reveals it. So, I have been given the opportunity to be part of a selective committee of having you as being an honorary Dominican. I've heard folks from the Peldomnium, from left to right of the political spectrum, give kudos to you. And of course, your consummate, your acumen has spoken beyond what it is. And so I thank you. But I started like that, and I think I want to end like that as well. I think it's worth it. For the little 2 minutes I have, I think I'll say it. It's a poem that's my favorite poem in the world. It's called Invictus. It's by William Ernest Henley. And it says, out of the night that covers me, black as peat from pole to pole, I thank whatever God may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody, bottom bowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my faith. I am the captain of my soul. This is come from Mr. Sir William Henry. So Pastor Rodney asked me to give my closing remarks as to what I think. I don't know if it's my closing remark yet. I think Mr. Gregor said we have some time to interact. And I really do want to interact because there are some other things I would like to share. In fact, on the consummate there, I did send a song for Pastor Rodney. If we have 1 second that he could play, it says that the anchor holds, though the ship is battered. The anchor holds, though the sails are torn. And I think that's what you stand for me. Like I said, I won't be presumptuous to claim to know your history, but I know of you. I eat your bread. And when I saw what happened in Roseau, I can say the anchor holds, though the ship is battered. The anchor holds, though the sail has been torn. You stand strong next to your wife. On QFM, Dominica is proud of you. And I'm very thankful for you, sir. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dion. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me take another call, Mr. G, before we get down to this. And on the telephone, good evening. We are honoring Herbert Sukie Winston. You have a few seconds with me, please.
Yes, let me congratulate Mr. Sukie, a friend, and I can even say a father. I personally have been impacted by Mr. Sukie's life. When Mr. Sukie saw me, actually Mr. Sukie knows me very well. I'm Kendall Plummer. And Mr. Sukie took on his own and just asked me if I have a visa. He wanted to send me a medicine. He did not know me from anywhere. And Mr. Sukie, I did not have a visa. But Mr. Sukie took on his own again and sent me to Trinidad to school without even knowing me. Mr. Sukie. Mr. Sukie, I'm thinking about right now and say thank you very much. Today, Mr. Sukie is still my friend and a father figure to me. Yeah? So congratulations to you, Mr. Sukie, and your wife. I'll always be there, and he's always there for me today. A man who saw me and did not know me and just invested all that in me. I was treated like better than a son. I can tell the world that.
Wow.
Mr. Sukie took care of me, sent me to Trinidad, a taxi to take me to the beach if I wanted to take me to school and to take me back. He was there and called on me very regularly to find out how I'm doing, if everything is going well, what is it that I need, and to continue. Mr. Sukie, the world would not believe that. When I told people this story, they tell me not, they would have to see to believe. But today I'm confessing to the world. That's how good he is. He's a good man, a hard-working man. And today I'm still inspired by him. As we speak, I'm coming from Margaret now from work. Mr. Sukie. But he's a good man. Again, Mr. Sukie, congratulations. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. G.
Well, Pastor Rodney, all I really have left to say is that it's been an absolute delight for me. I mean, I feel so good about this. I mean, we sat down, we looked at this, we listened to the people. The people said, Herbert Sukie Winston is a Dominican hero. Our committee agreed. We're here tonight to embrace him and award him and recognize him. I'm really happy to do that. I think I can say this on behalf of all of our members. We're all very happy. As a matter of fact, I mean, so much came out of this. Many of us didn't even know all of that was going to come out from some of the people who spoke. But I do agree with you, Pastor Rodney, and with Sukie as well, that we need to take it to the next level and to give him some time to really speak about the things that he wants to speak about. I think it's so important for us to get the benefit of his experience and his knowledge and his wisdom. I mean, look, when we were little boys at the grammar school or in elementary school, we did not know where we were going to be today, but it's all because of hard work. This is what he stands for. It's hard work. He uses ingenuity. You know, he wasn't afraid to take his chances, but he worked hard. So, Pastor Rodney, for me, it's really, really, I'm simply very happy I'm very pleased to be here tonight. And I want to tell Herbie, thank you for the opportunity to be able to acknowledge you for all that you've done, and to say to Vicky, I mean, without you, he keeps saying that, and we believe it, he could not have done it without you. I think Vicky, Pastor Rodney, is a little bit concerned. However, because he said that he gave you the keys and you're the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
That's right.
I don't know whether Pastor Rodney may feel that he has to do the same thing. So I will leave that to him to see what he has. So I hope you didn't put him in trouble. Because the Exchequer by him might be a little different from the one by you. So Pastor Rodney, we're very happy to award Sukie and Vicky here tonight.
And we will do that formal awarding as we speak right now. So, Mr. Winston, we do this, and we do it like that all the time. We present you first with a plaque on behalf of the committee. Kudos to our heroes, to Herbert Sukie Winston, recognition and appreciation for lifelong entrepreneur and businessman from the committee. Chancellor of the Exchequer. And one of the things that we believe in, Mr. Winston, is that we believe in the practice of giving people their flowers. And we want to give it to them, hand it to them. We have had some situation, in fact, one, since we're doing that we had to do that posthumously. But tonight, we want to give you your flowers in practice. Chancellor of the Exchequer. And corrupt ungrateful Dominicans against inflation, drug dealing, domestic violence, and misuse of countries' resource without conscience. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we do here. Kudos for Q, and we ensure that we honor our heroes. And like we said, this is a community honor. Vicky, I don't know if you want to say a few words now, as well as okay, you still want Sukie to say all the words for you, to say thanks, and before we bring the curtains down there. No, just you know, it's just you and Sukie know.
Good evening. What an exercise. What an exercise of total recognition. The basic origin of it. The people talk. The people accepted unanimously. I humble myself to all what it is, and I say great thanks from all the members of my family, Herbert, Tiffany, Sandra, Aubrey, Hallie, Servitor, Aubrey, Frank, and everyone. And last but not least, my beloved brother-in-law, Gifford Charles, Sergeant Charles from La Plaine. Thanks ever so much for keeping the tight ship floating. And I will be back, because what you heard was Sukie in the early days. You need to know where Sukie stands now. This is the interesting and challenging times. I have a word for all. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, Sukie. Closing sentences, please, from the committee.
Maybe Dr. Simone might want to go first. I know you're a lecturer at the university and you have papers to correct, I'm sure. So maybe you want to take the first shot.
Yes, again, it's been an honor being here with you, Mr. Sukie Winston. Pastor Rodney, thank you for facilitating this. Excellent job. Again, to our viewers on Facebook, as well as our listeners in Dominica and throughout the rest of the world. It's been quite an honor to be here with you. This was my first episode of Kudos to Our Heroes, and I am absolutely looking forward to being a part of the committee as we continue to recognize our Dominican heroes. And now, Mr. G, I think we're also seeing that there's a much needed second part to what we are doing here. So in addition to acknowledging and celebrating our Dominican heroes, now we're seeing we need to tap into their expertise and see how we can harvest this information and make even greater use of all the knowledge and experience that our heroes have acquired. So again, I think someone said it in the chat, we have work to do, Mr. G. We have work to do on this committee, and we need to figure out what next can we do with this wonderful information and experience that our heroes have amassed over this year. So again, a pleasant good evening, good night to everyone. It was an honor being a part of this program, and I look forward to being a part of all the other Kudos to Our Heroes episodes. And of course, we want you to keep it locked to Q95 to find out who our next hero will be. So again, congratulations, Mr. Sukie, and your lovely wife, Vicky. And again, a pleasant good evening to everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Simone. Closing sentences, Crispin.
Yes, Pastor Rodney. I want to be short. It's been a tremendous learning experience tonight. Here's what I'm going to suggest for Sukie. Sukie, your story has to be told on film and radio, of course. But I think that one of the things that you will leave behind is that story must be told in the moving image and sound, and then we can keep that so that we can learn for a long time your story. Good night. Good night to you and Vicky. And it's been really an honor to be part of this.
God bless. Closing sentences, Dr. George.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Rodney. Let me take the opportunity once again to thank you, Mr. G, for hosting those programs that you host on QFM, the lecture series on the prime ministers, hosting the global view on Q, and hosting these, heroes. I think it's really a learned series, and I think it's the well-deserving. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this committee. Again, Mr. Winston, I will tell you, there were so many names that came up, and I can tell you undoubtedly that you were almost unanimously chosen as the candidate. And I say that with no doubt at all. And so I just want to say thank you so much. I want to say thanks to those in the studio, Lambi and Sherwin, Pastor Rodney. Thanks all my panelists. Thank you, Mr. Gregoire. But I also want to say thanks to the Facebook community we had tonight. I thought that their compliments to Mr. Sukie Winston was very positive and very uplifting. And I think essentially that's what we want, to bring Dominica together. No malignancy, no divisiveness, just some real positive vibes. And tonight I felt it. I really did felt it. But ultimately, I want to give thanks to God. And he's the person who has us here through thick and thin. And as we close, we want to remember the people in Ukraine and the ongoing war. Pastor Rodney, thank you for what you have done. And thanks all the listeners. God bless you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night as well, Corinne. And then we'll have Janice's closing sentences.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who has been listening tonight. I hope that all of you have been inspired by the young story of Sukie Winston, and are looking forward to getting the rest of the story that Mr. Winston will share with us. One of the great resources of a community is truly the stories of its people. And so I follow Crispin in supporting, creating a documentary of people like Herbert Sukie Winston, so that we can have a repository of the great Dominicans for others to look up to learn at school, to be included as part of our education curriculum, and highlight the work of our own people. Tonight, I felt the spirit of the Negmao. I'm reading this book by Dr. Fontaine, Resistance and Rebellion. And I kept thinking, what a better way than to be resistant and to be a rebel in today's world by standing up, by being independent, by never capitulating, by always standing firm for freedom and refusing to be held captive by anything and anyone. And I hope that's a message for our young people today, that we come from an ancestry that is great, that is strong, that is powerful, that refused to be subjugated. And no matter how many times they tried to capture or kill, they stood and refused to be back as slaves on a plantation. And the work that we do today, the independence we demonstrate today, can be our way of refusing to be back on any plantation for anyone.
Thank you, Corinne. Janice?
And to that, I say she's said it all. So I'll end by saying I thank you very much for an amazing Kudos for Heroes team, where one is weak, the other becomes strong and holds us together and binds us together to create these great programs. Mr. and Mrs. Winston, I say viva and thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Crispin Gregoire, Mr. Dion, Miss Janice, Miss Simon, and all the all other people. Very great, very great. Thank you very much. And Pastor Rodney, Pastor Rodney, and I thank you for this program. You know, it was very nice, very good, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome, man.
Mr. Sukie, you're very welcome.
You're very welcome, Mr. G.
Yeah, Pastor Rodney, I mean, isn't it really a blessing to be here tonight? I mean, look at the situation here, the exchanges that we're having. We're in the presence of greatness. You know, too often, you know, we look outside for greatness and we say if it comes from outside, it's good. And we don't honor our own heroes. But we're looking at greatness right there. Look, so many people around the table who have accomplished so much. You know, but there's so many more Dominicans, a lot of Dominicans at home and abroad who have accomplished a great deal. We really need to highlight them and acknowledge them and embrace them and help them to unify us as one people. And that is why we do what we're doing. And I'm hoping that this will be a fruit and that one of those days, some people will recognize that part of all of this is a unification process to make us acknowledge the wealth of talent that we have, just like Singapore did. They built a country on their human resource. This is what we should be doing. We should not be really dividing each other and backbiting and movie-langing and so on. Essentially, we should really appreciate each of us, our strengths, as Janet says, build on that, add to it, add value to it. So I agree. And I certainly think we will do something. I agree with Crispin that Sukie should really put his thing on film. And I agree that the next step, we will discuss with Sukie, Pastor Rodney, what is the next move we're going to make to give him an opportunity to give to the younger generations, especially what it is that he has in mind from the Sukie that we know now going forward. So I'm looking forward to that. We will discuss that tomorrow and we'll see how we can get that organized. Sukie, I look forward to seeing you as soon as I get down there. And the first thing I will do will bite a little bread together.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks to all of you on the committee, and thanks for all of the support that we have gotten for that. And congratulations again to you, Mr. and Mrs. Winston. And you look like you just about 26, 27, very, very young people.
Very much so.
Yeah. Just you look just about that. And
thank you.
I look forward to you all being here for
Yeah.
some time, so we can tap some stuff from you both. We appreciate you, we love you, and we love what you do.
Definitely.
And we want to make sure that a lot of what you are able to do, you pass on to us. I'm sure you'd be happy to know that we can pick up from after you.
Well, what I gather is that the next episode will be taped by the other radio stations.
Yes.
Because we have some very, very strong messages.
Okay.
To send across.
I'm sure they always do
to the
that.
nation.
All of them do that. And coming from you, many of them will be tipping that. We'll say it all across the place. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here with us. It's 26 minutes past 9 o'clock on the evening, and we are so glad that so many of you stayed with us tonight for this Kudos for Q. We are happy to have you honoring Herbert Sukie Winston tonight on this program, and we thank the committee for doing just that. Trust every one of you will have a very good night tonight. We'll, of course, see you sometime soon in the future. God bless you guys.
God bless you. Bless you all.
All right, it's okay, Vicky. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Pastor.
Good night, everyone.
Good
you.
Everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.
God bless.
If you give a little more